Hi everyone, thanks to Pure Sport CBD for sponsoring this week's episode. Pure Sport CBD are the world's most trusted and certified CBD brand. Pure Sport CBD was founded by two professional athletes. These professional athletes could not find a CBD brand that could guarantee them passing a drugs test. Upon realising how effective CBD can be for dealing with recovery, sleep, pain, inflammation and mental well-being, the two athletes decided to start their own CBD brand and Pure Sport was born. I have been using these products myself for a while now and absolutely love them. In particular, I use it for back pain and anxiety, and it's had a positive impact on both of those areas. If you'd like to try some for yourself, please use the code QS15 for 15% off products on their website. The website is www.puresportcbd.com and you can find them on Instagram at puresportcbd. Why don't we do something completely different? And we really have done something completely different. So today I'm joined by pro athletic heptathlon specialist, model, ambassador for the likes of Pure Sport CBD, My Protein. Say hello to the lovely Emma Canning.
Hi there.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Tell us where you are. Tell us where you are. Make us all jealous.
Well, I was going to say sunny south of France, but today it feels a bit like home because it's raining, but I'm in the south of France right now.
Well, the sun is shining in Glasgow today, so
right, one day a year.
but the heating's still on, so it's certainly not warm.
Yeah.
So Emma, what we're going to do today is we're going to take a right journey from start to finish of where you are now and where it all started. And we're going to go on a bit of a roller coaster, ups, down, left, rights, everything. We're going to cover it all. But I want to start by saying you were born and bred in Glasgow or just the outskirts of Glasgow.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about where you come from.
I was born in Glasgow and I lived 20 years there before I moved. So yeah, I lived in a small village just outside Glasgow called Milton-y-Campsie. My whole family lived there, aunts, uncles, nana, papa, you name it. We were all in that one little village.
Okay.
And then my family kind of moved a couple times, like because we went to school in Glasgow from when I was maybe about 12. So we moved from the small village to another village, but basically just grew up in Glasgow my whole life. So yeah.
Well, listen, great city. As I say, people make Glasgow. And good to see that your accent is still going strong, even though you've been over in France now for a while. How's the French coming on?
It's good. Like, well, when I moved, sorry, I did not understand a thing. That was a real challenge. I didn't do French at school at all. I stopped that pretty early on, so it was a lot tougher at the start. But now I fully understand pretty much everything. I can say I can talk when I want. I'm still a bit shy to speak. Like,
I'll put you on the spot then. Come on to Bell 2.
Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that to me. Like, I don't want to say anything because like I said, I'm quite shy with the French.
That's about the only thing I know. So don't mean it's not. I'm not trying to show off there. I don't know anything else after that. And I did French at school, but yeah, it wasn't really. Didn't really take a fancy to it.
So that's the main thing.
Talk to me about your childhood, Emma. Talk to me about, and when I say your childhood, tell me about your family background. Do you have any siblings, cousins, friends? What was it like growing up?
Growing up was crazy, I think, because I come from quite a big family. There was 4 of us, all under the age of 6. My eldest brother was 6. I was 5. My younger brother was 3 and my little sister was just born. So there was we were all kind of quite close together.
Whoa, your mum and dad did well to juggle all that.
Yeah. So, and also my mum has 3 sisters who also have kids. We were all close in age. So,
yeah.
And we all lived in that small village, like I said. So it was I mean, it was really good. I have like amazing memories from my childhood, all growing up together and all going to school together. And you know, my childhood was very active. I think because I was so close in age with my older brother Johnny, we did a lot together, and we kind of were very competitive with each other from like a really young age with sport and stuff. We were all introduced to sport pretty early. My dad is a big sports fan. He used to be a runner himself, so he kind of got us into it from quite a young age.
Okay.
So yeah, I was always up to something. Like my childhood, I was the one that was up to nonsense basically. Always try to get people to get up to mischief with me and stuff. So I was very active as a child. Always wanted to be outside playing. Always wanted to be doing some sort of sport. Was in every sports club you could imagine after school. I think at one point I was at a different club every night after school. I'm sure my mum loved that at the time. But
Yeah, I mean, busy traveling, constantly picking you up.
yeah.
I'm a parent now, and I think, how the hell did my mum and dad do that? After a long day's work, picking up, dropping off, waiting outside places, must have been hard.
But that, like, because my mum worked obviously at the time when we were younger, and we spent a lot of time at my nana and papa's house with my cousins, and I remember I have such funny memories. We always talk about them, like going for dinner at my nana and papa's house, and there must have been, well, there were 7 of us or 6 or 7 of us at the dinner table, you know, like all chatting, all fighting, all carrying on. And I don't know how my nana and papa did it, to be fair. So yeah, I have really funny memories like from growing up with all my cousins and my brothers and sister and everything like that. So yeah, it was a good childhood.
Sounds like the perfect childhood, really.
Yeah.
I mean, what else could you ask for? You know, all your family, close knit family,
Yeah.
all these cousins, I bet there was some right antics.
They're
And they
all coming from me usually.
Yeah, sounds like at least you admit you're the troublemaker. So there's always one. There's always one.
There's always one that happened to be me. So
I'm sure some of your other siblings and cousins got up to a wee bit of no good as well. We won't put it all on you, but at least you're very honest. You're very honest.
Yeah.
So that takes me straight into the next question, and I can see already where the influence came from. You mentioned your dad was a runner. So athletics was something that you were interested in early doors?
Yeah, well, not so much athletics early on. It was more just running. I managed to convince my primary school teacher to let me in the running club a year early because my brother was going, and it was for primary 5, 6, and 7, and I was primary 4 at the time. And I managed to get into the running club somehow, and I just was hooked like on running. I just loved running. Me and my brother used to go out running at night. And the guy that took our primary school running club actually ran for GB at the time.
Wow.
And yeah, he was like a cross country runner for GB, and he used to take us for the school running club, and I was like, wow, he's amazing, you know, like he's
perfect idol to have.
He's running for Great Britain. He was called Connor McNulty. I'm not, like, his mum was our like PE teacher, so he kind of came in after school, and I was like inspired immediately. I just wanted to run all the time, and having my older brother there as well was a real help because you know, we used to kind of be competitive with each other. We always, and you know, we used to go out running after school sometimes at night or whatever. My dad obviously loved the fact we were into the running, so from when I was about 9 it was just running, and I joined the running club near my home. So I used to run on a Tuesday, Thursday, and yeah, it was just running at that point. And athletics kind of came into it when I moved school to a school in Glasgow, and they kind of introduced us to some other events. You know, just they had the big sports complex out at Millerston in Steps, just outside Glasgow. So they took us there and kind of introduced us to a few other events, and I realised like, well, I loved all sports at the time. You know, like I said, I was going to different clubs and stuff, so I loved trying new things, and I was quite naturally talented at like jumping and things like that. I found that I really enjoyed doing that. So it kind of stemmed from like high school, I guess, the athletics, and it just kind of went from there. You know, they introduced me to different events and entered me into the Scottish Schools Triathlon, which was the first time I'd really experienced like different track and field events. I thought it was an actual triathlon with the running, swimming, and whatever else, like cycling. I was thinking, all right, well, I can run and I can cycle a bike and I can swim because I went to swimming club. So I was thinking, yeah, that'll be fine. But it turned out being like a track and field event. So that was like my first experience on the track.
How old would you have been at this point?
I must have been, well, it was first year, I remember that, so I must have been, 12 or 13 that I actually first started doing. That event was high jump, shot put, and 600 metres. So like I said, I came from like a running background, so I knew the 600 would be fine. I had never done high jump before in my life. I don't think, maybe one time at a club event just as an extra, but to be honest, I don't have any memories before that. And I have a really funny memory from this competition because, you know, there were girls it was Scottish schools, you know, it was a big deal back then, you know, my first Scottish schools. And there was girls like putting out their run up, you know, like all very professional. I'm looking around thinking, what the heck are they doing? I have no clue what's happening here. I just like put my water bottle down thinking, right, I'll run from about there and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I ended up using this other girl's run up. And it turns out that the coach, there was a coach there for her as well. I'm thinking, oh, she must be the big dog here. She's got a coach with her. My dad didn't have a scooby. He's sitting outside thinking, right, this will go one or two ways here. But she ended up, her coach, who ended up being my coach, I just used her run up and I ended up doing quite well. I also learned at that competition that shot put was not my forte, but anyway, we move. And yeah, I ended up winning the Scottish Schools that day, and I was not expecting to win that at all. Like, I wasn't
So
even
you turned up with no run up, no nothing,
No.
and you just this, so just natural talent then.
I think it was natural talent, but I was very competitive, and I think like, to be honest, with 3 events, I mean, the shot put I wasn't great at, but we were all so young at the time, so you know, I think a lot of people were just trying it out for the first time. But because I kind of came from a running background, I did quite well in the 600 and I did well in the high jump, and it was enough to win. But I was hooked from that day because I was thinking, I have never won anything in my life and I've just won something. So this is what I want to do for the time being. And I said to my dad, I loved that. And then he kind of was like, right, you enjoy it, so we'll see where it goes, and kind of went from there. So I loved it that day. I still remember that.
That's some story. That's stories like that are the best, because
I know.
you obviously, but I think you probably still turned up there and talking to you now, wanting to win. Whether you had no experience or not, and this was totally new, you thought you were turning up for all different events, and then you found out you were going to. That's mental.
I did find out beforehand it wasn't the cycling and swimming and stuff, but I mean, when she mentioned, like my teacher mentioned that I was doing it, that's what I thought initially. But then, yeah, like when I showed up, I didn't necessarily think I was going to win, but I was thinking, I am nervous here. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I just love competing, and it's something that stayed with me, like even till now. You know, I'm a real competitor. When it gets to competition day, like I am buzzing.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a good thing, I think, and it's when I was hooked from that day. To be honest, I was like, I need to do more of this because that felt great.
Well,
So
but this stems probably from, like you say, you had an older brother who you were always competing with. So
yeah,
you've just grown up in that environment of like,
yeah,
I want to beat him, and
yeah,
then you know it's the bragging rights at home, and then when you've gone into competition, you've already got the experience of being challenged. So it's brilliant. Now, when did you then decide then that heptathlon was going to be the event? Because personally, I think you're mad. But I'm going to put this. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just mean it more because I'm in awe of people that take on something like this. So just for the viewers that don't know all the ins and outs of heptathlon, the women's heptathlon, 100-meter hurdles, high jump, shot put, 200 meters, long jump, javelin throw, and 800 meters. I'm tired saying all of that. But yeah, when did you then, you said you loved it, you loved being around it. So talk to me then about how that journey started transitioning.
So after the triathlon that I did, I said to my dad, like, I want to do this event. I mean, I didn't even know at this stage what this event was, but I was like, I want to do more than one thing. I don't want to just do running anymore. So he was like, right, okay, like you enjoyed it, so we'll do it. And he entered me into the under 15 pentathlon, which was the Scottish Championship. This was a step up because this is then all girls, like, you know, under 15 in Scotland. And it was at the track, the Petrivi, I can't remember where that is, but it was Petrivi Club track. I remember it so much, and I remember showing up at this Scottish event and just thinking, oh God, this is even higher than the Scottish schools. You know, people had coaches, people had like full run-ups in the long jump. Everybody knew what they were doing, and I'm just thinking, what am I doing here? But I'd like experienced a wee bit of long jump before and high jump, and obviously my dad and I had kind of prepared a wee bit for it, but like that was my first Scottish event, and I kind of learned early on that, you know, you have to you have to kind of wait until the end of the event, like before the 800 meters. Like you don't have a clue where you're going to finish up. You know, it doesn't matter until you've crossed the line at the 800. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I kind of loved that about the event. You know, like you have a chance to redeem yourself if something doesn't really go right, or you know, you have a chance throughout the day to kind of build your points. And my dad said, I remember doing the under 15 pentathlon. And I got the bronze medal at the end of the day thanks to my 800, which became a theme kind of growing up with the multi-events. The 800 kind of saved me a lot because I just wasn't a thrower, or you know.
Well, you had all the experience in the running from a young age, so I can understand why that was your event to always make up. So you must love that event.
Yeah, so love, not so sure, but I was always quite good at it. So like I just remember starting off with the Scottish champs and getting a medal again and thinking, right, I've got something else. So I started with the Scottish Schools Gold, and I got the bronze in the under 15, which was around the end of the season. And I remember just thinking, like, I really, really do enjoy this. And it's when I joined my coach, like my coach who took me all through my junior career, because my dad, like I said, he was a runner, so he didn't have the knowledge or the expertise to kind of coach me through all the events. So he was always very active in my training and always kind of knew what I was doing, and he still loves to hear every single detail about what I do in training, but he just didn't have the knowledge. So I joined a coach around that time, which I don't even know what year that would have been. I was under 15, I was about 14 maybe, so a long time ago now. But I joined him.
Not that long. Not that long. You're 23 now.
10 years ago.
8 years ago. 8 years ago. That's not 8 years flies by. So you know, don't make me feel too old here right now.
Next thing won't fly by because you know I'm kicking on now. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so it just kind of went from there. I joined a proper coach, and you know, got kind of entered into a few other events, and I got my first Scotland vest in 2011. So that was the December of that year, I think, that I just started. And that was a big deal for me. Like, that competition really sticks out for me in my whole career. You know, everybody says, oh, what was your favourite competition? And I'm like, see, the first time I got a Scotland vest, that was like next level for me. And I remember being so buzzing, like, but I had this like sense of confidence around myself, which was really strange from like a really young age, I guess. Like, looking back, obviously I didn't think about it at the time, but I remember being at that competition, and I hadn't really experienced like high level competition at this stage. It was my first ever vest, you know, it was for the Scottish schools team, and I remember so specifically the long jump at the beginning of the day. It was the first event, and there was a girl from England who was the big dog at the time. Like, she was the big dog, everybody knew it, and it turns out I would end up competing with her a lot kind of in my junior career. So she was the one that everybody was watching, and in the long jump she was jumping first and I was jumping second. So I'm thinking, oh Jesus, I'm right behind, you know, the big cheese here. So she I think my personal best at the time was like 4 meters something, not great. And I warmed up and everything, and usually in the long jump competition you get 2 warm-up throws and then you're straight into competition. But I just remember, even when I was really young, you know, no experience, I did 1 warm-up, and I said to my coach and my dad who were in the stands, I was like, I'm ready for this competition. And I didn't take my second warm-up jump, and I didn't take my second one, and then the first jump I did, I just jumped a massive PB. Like, I think I jumped 5:20, and I was maybe 13 or 14 at the time. And I just think, like, that's what I mean when I'm like a competition performer, I guess.
What did she jump before you?
Oh, she jumped something big, I think, like 5:60 or something. But my PB at the time was maybe 4:60, so I'm thinking she's just jumped a meter ahead of what I can do.
You smashed your PB as well.
Yeah, I just went out, and I just remember being so buzzing with that. And like, but I learned again in that competition, the pentathlon at the time, it was 5 events when you're younger, it's 7 now, but it's a full day thing, you know. So like, you can't, although even if you get a really good performance in the beginning, like, you can't use all your energy being buzzing about one thing, because you've got 4 other events, or you've got 6 other events to do. So it's all a learning. But I just remember, like, that's how it all started, because that competition especially was at a real competition environment, you know, and I really like responded to that well. So it kind of just went on from there, and you know, that always sticks out to me as like a big thing, because I was like, I loved that day. My first Scotland vest, I had some energy about me, I'll tell you. Like, it was crazy. I was bouncing off the walls all day.
I mean, getting your Scotland, I mean, I know the feeling you felt there as a junior. As soon as you just have that official you know, I'm representing my country here. That's it lifts you up, and I can see the excitement, and it's brought the best out in you. The questions I've got, you touched on a few things there. A few questions I've got is, must be a lot of up and down emotions. I mean, you might do really well one day in the 100-meter hurdles, and then you might not have a good high jump. You might not have a good shot put.
Yeah.
You've got to keep your emotions and your energy positive, I'm assuming, to go into 200 meters. You know, how do you manage that? How do you, because it must be quite emotional if you have a really bad event, that you know you've not been up to your standard. How do you pick yourself up?
To be honest, like I owe a lot of that to my dad, because from a very, very young age, like for instance, that competition I was just talking about, I ended up coming fourth, which in the grand scale of things was like a really good position to finish. You know, usually in these kind of competitions, it was 4 in a team, so it was 1, 2, 3, 4 England usually, but I managed to sneak in and kind of break that. But that ended up being a bit of a theme for me. I was always finishing fourth when I was younger. You know, I was thinking, oh, you know, when am I going to get a medal, or when am I going to do this? And it's the same, like, you know, like you said, you have moments where you don't perform as well, and you have moments when you perform really well. But my dad always had a way of keeping me kind of level. You know, he very, like from a very young age, he like drilled it into me, like, you have to be patient in this kind of sport. You have to be aware that it's never going to be like easy. You're never just going to keep getting big PBs all the time, because when you're younger you do get big PBs a lot because you're learning and you're training for it more, so the PBs come quicker when you're younger. But especially with the heptathlon, you know, you have to control your emotions a lot more, I would say, because you have to be able to stay on a kind of positive mental attitude the full way through. And my dad has always been amazing for that. You know, he's like, you have to look at the bigger picture. Every single time you do something that's maybe not what you were hoping for, or you know, you learn so much every single time you compete. And he drilled that in to me from when I was 13 years, from when I started basically. And you know, it's played a massive role in my whole journey so far, because although there has been times where I've taken a massive dip in performance for whatever reason, like injuries and stuff, I'm sure we'll get onto. But you know, my dad's always been there in the background, just think of the bigger picture. You know, it's all part of it. You're learning so much here. It's never always going to be perfect, but you have to believe in yourself, you know. And I think my mum and dad, well, my mum as well, you know, like my dad was more involved kind of with coaching and performance side of things. My mum was always just been like a real supporter in the background. But both of them, you know, their belief kind of, it kept me calm. I was just like, right, it didn't go as well as I planned, but you know, my dad's very much of, right, we did that, now this is what we have to do going forward. And I've just kind of kept that attitude the whole way through. I don't beat myself up. You know, obviously you have your moments where you're just like, oh, God's sake. You know? Naturally, as a competitor, you want to do your best every time, but sport, there's so many times where like things just don't go to plan. But you know, I really have my dad to thank for that, because he's kind of drilled it in from the start. You know, you can't beat yourself up. It's already happened. So what can you do now? You know.
Yeah, good.
So
Good. Let's look at the positives, and let's work on where we need to work on, and go on. Big shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Canning. Dad sounds like a champion dad. Like, you know, he seems like he's really taught you the real fundamentals of what it takes to compete at the top level. And Mum obviously sounds like she was a massive, didn't have maybe the knowledge that your dad had, but you know, together.
I mean, she argues that she was a right competitor in the javelin at school, so I'll give her that. But but my dad's been there, you know, from every level. Obviously, I have 3 other brothers and sisters, so my mum can always come to everything. You know, she's there for the big ones and she's there when it matters. But my dad's been there, you know, through the small ones, the big ones. You know, so we have such a special bond over my sport. And because my dad used to be a runner, you know, I think part of it, he maybe stopped earlier than he should have. And I mean, he's never really spoke about it, but I think he kind of lives with some regrets in that sense, with stopping the sport early. So I know that he sees the potential in me, and he knows that if I stick at it and I work hard, I can achieve what maybe he kind of stopped prematurely for that, you know. And I think he's kind of living it through me as well.
Yeah.
You know, and that helps. So and you know, we're so on the same page, my dad and I, you know, with everything, and we really connect over it. So I'm so grateful for the relationship that I have with my dad, and I know that he'll be the most honest. My mum's probably more honest, but I need that, you know, like I need
We
people
all need
around me that
honesty,
are honest. And you know, he's always been like good through the good and the bad. And I know when I've done well, because my dad will give a wee a wee fist, you know, but he never really says too much. But you know, there have been moments where I'm like, I've done that good.
But that, you know, that's good. You know, sometimes over egging it, and you know,
Yeah.
especially if you want it, where you're competing is not, you know, you're not just doing it for fun. I mean, you enjoy it, but you're doing it to win and achieve medals and do. So you know, it's good that a parent keeps you grounded, but it's at the right time says, "Well done," and at the right time maybe says, "You know, do you think you could have?" There's a balance in everything, and it sounds like your dad has been perfect all the way through, and I'm sure is still a massive support. And I'd imagine you're in regular communication even when you're over in France.
I think I'll FaceTime my dad. I FaceTime my mum more for just chat, just general chat.
Yeah.
She loves hearing what I'm up to training wise, but I think after every session I'll give my dad a FaceTime. If I've done something good, I'm like, Dad, I just did that. And he's like, right, we're going in the right direction, but we've still got a lot of work to do, you know. So I'm in, you know, I FaceTime my mum and dad maybe 2 or 3 times a day. They can't get me off the FaceTime because I just love keeping them updated. And you know, my dad, he's retiring at the start of next year, so I'm hoping he's going to be able to come out.
Oh,
Fingers
cool.
crossed all this corona stuff stops, but he's going to be able to come out and actually get, you know, a bit more involved with stuff now that he'll have a bit more time. But I'm definitely keeping them fully updated with everything that I'm doing, and you know, it's really nice to have that with them, and they're so supportive with everything I'm doing. I can't thank them, you know, enough for that. So no, it's good to have them. They've definitely kept me grounded throughout the years and told me when I'm kind of taking the piss of it, but I needed that, you know, everybody needs that, and I know that they're going to be the ones that are the most honest, and yeah, it's good. It's good.
No, it's very healthy. Sounds really healthy, a relationship with your parents, and you know, all credit to them and to you. You obviously have a fantastic family type bond. Sounds like your siblings as well. All of you sound really tight knit. Love to hear it. What would you say are your top 3 events in the heptathlon? What are your preferred, or what's your favourites, or what do you know? If I've got that up my sleeve, I'm in business here.
I think my favourites and what I get most points, they kind of differ. Like my favourites are obviously just depending on what ones are going well at the time. Because one week I'm like, I love the long jump, and then the next week, you know, it might not be clicking, and I'm thinking, God, that needs to go. But you know, points wise, my top 3 are probably definitely the 800. I've always been strong at the 800. I've got a really good mental attitude for the 800, thanks to my dad. I mean, I've had my moments, everybody does, you know, with confidence and stuff, but you know, I have a really positive view towards the 800, and I know I can get good points in that. So definitely the 800's up there. High jump, I can get good points in that, but again, it's hit or miss with that one because it's so.
Have you got a run up? Have you got a run up now? I'm assuming you've got a run up now.
Yes, I'm not using the water bottle technique anymore, but when the high jump's going well, it's probably one of my favourites. I love the training for it. I love the hype that you get, and although it's like personal bests now are kind of decreasing, like it's like tiny increments that you're improving by. But see, when you get like a PB in the high jump, God, that's a long wait usually. So it's some buzz when you do get a good jump in. And long jump as well. Long jump, high jump are up there, kind of similar. Yeah, they're probably my top 3 favourite wise. The jumps in the 800. I mean, I say 800 is a favourite very loosely because it's a painful one, but I know I'm good at it, and I know I can run a good time. So yeah, it's definitely like up there. But my hurdles are coming down now and stuff, and
there's a couple of throwing events as well, shot put and javelin. How are you? And you never mentioned them. How is that? Is that maybe one that are there 2 events that you maybe are always trying to? If they improve a little bit, it'll benefit the whole round.
Yeah, I was waiting for the throwing to come up, to be honest.
I'm not letting you slip that. You know, that's why I wrote it down. And I'm listen, to be amazing at all 8 events is not going to be easy. I'm sure you're constantly evolving. But yeah, talk to me about your throwing events.
Well, to put it simply, I'm just not a natural thrower. I mean, I'm not built for the throwing. And it's been a real struggle for me throughout my whole career, basically. You know, I really struggled. It's been a mental barrier I didn't have to pick up the javelin until I was under 17, but even then, you know, the coordination just wasn't there. It just didn't click naturally, and that's quite hard to accept when you're somebody that's really competitive. You know, you're just thinking, why can I not do that? Why can I not do that as well as, you know, the jumps or anything like that? But I think the biggest thing for me was moving to France and getting a different perspective on it, and getting, you know, my coach now, his best event, he was a decathlete for France, he went to the Olympics and stuff. His best event was the javelin, or javelin and pole vault. I actually think he has the world record for decathlon pole vault. So he, like, pole vault and javelin, he was really, really good at. So he's very coordinated.
Probably perfect coach for you then.
Honestly, it was the thing I really needed. Like, but you know, it's still a work in progress. I'm actually loving javelin right now, which is a big thing for me to say, because I hated javelin throwing. And I've tried, when I was still training in Scotland, I went to a specialist javelin coach who I had a lot of time for. She really, really helped me kind of change my mentality for it. Shot put as well. I had a really good shot put coach in Glasgow, but I just was still, I didn't do it enough. That was the problem. I didn't train for it enough. My coach, my junior coach, he wasn't that confident in coaching it, and we just didn't like it, and we knew I wasn't good at it, so we kind of put it to one side and focused on the other events. And you can get away with that as a junior, you know, because nobody's really throwing that big when you're a junior. You know, everybody's kind of learning, and it's a heavier weight and all that kind of stuff. But as I progressed into senior, or as I got older, I really noticed a big gap in what I was throwing and what my competitors were throwing. And I was losing competitions just on the
those
point
events,
on the throwing events. And you know, it got to the stage where I was thinking, am I actually going to be able to do this? Because although my other events were strong, you know, I was losing competitions just because I couldn't throw it like as far as the others. And I was thinking, like, that, how can I not throw? Like, you know, it's just like, what is happening here? And I tried to be positive about it, and I tried, but just nothing was working. And you know, I used to get really negative, and you could see my body language in competition change from one event to the next. You know, from the jumps, I'm full of confidence, full of life, and like buzzing, and then I'd go to the shot put, or I'd go to the javelin, and I would just be like, I am not comfortable here. Like, let's just get this over with as fast as possible. And it just was a whole, like, I just used to dread it. I honestly used to dread it. My dad used to dread it because I was dreading it, and like, you know, I just used to lose so much in the competition from that. But moving to France, I think the main thing was a change of mindset, you know, and consistent training. That's the bottom line. You know, we consistently train for both the shot and the javelin, and we fit it into the week. We throw twice a week, you know, sometimes twice shot a week, once javelin, or twice javelin, one shot. You know, we throw a lot more. So
you're looking gunned up. Just before we dive into France and the big change of moving, a couple of other wee things I want to touch on. Not really wee things, to be honest, pretty big deal. You decided to go to university, which is great. And you took on a law degree, which is no easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. And were you still training and competing during all that? Talk to me about that experience.
Yeah, so I had a kind of difficult time at school, to be honest. Like, I don't know if it was just, I didn't really have a goal when I was younger in terms of what I wanted to do. I knew I loved sport, and I knew I wanted to do that, but thanks to my parents as well, they also knew that it was important to have a kind of backup. And they were really hard on me in school, you know, like, because there was a point where I just kind of wasn't focused in school. I used to carry on. I was, like I said, I was always up to mischief, but you know, I just wasn't getting anything out of school, and I moved school, and it was difficult to kind of settle and all that. And all I wanted to do was do sport, and I was very hyper as a child. So, you know, that was difficult. And as soon as I found out what I wanted to do, which was a law degree, and I actually got the inspiration from another athlete, an 800-metre athlete in Great Britain, Lindsay Sharp. She, around the time of the 2012 Olympics, which was when I was midway through high school, she graduated with a law degree from Edinburgh University, and she was also going to the Olympics on the same year. And I remember seeing that. I remember it being so clear, like, being like, I want to do that. I want to do that, because I was very good at English in school and very good at writing and reading and everything, and I was always interested, and I loved writing, and I knew that a law degree was mainly reading and writing, basically. And you know, I liked to just kind of get stuck in to that, and I was rubbish at maths at school, I was rubbish at science. So I'm thinking, well, a law degree opens up a lot of doors, and I knew that. So I just thought, as soon as I figured out that's what I wanted to do, it was like a light bulb went on, and I just was a completely different person in school. And I came back once. I used to fail all my exams at the start of school, not all of them, because I was like, I'm not stupid, but I just wasn't putting in effort. And it was very clear when, the level started to get better in school that I wasn't putting in the effort. And then I came back from kind of this summer. I came back and I was just thinking, I want to get my grades and get out this school as soon as possible so that I can get to uni and get that done so that I can focus on sport after. And my best friend at school at the time was so intelligent, like it was crazy. I didn't really have that many friends at school because I was so busy and and so I don't know, like I said, I just struggled to fit in. And
your social events were always on a track somewhere.
Yeah, and kind of growing up and stuff, my mum and dad were quite strict. They allowed me to do stuff, but quite strict, and it didn't really fit in with what was happening at my age group, So it was difficult. It was a difficult time for me, and it kind of was the reason why I wanted to go to university so quickly. Like, I just wanted to get out of school and kind of get on with it, kind of thing. So my best friend at the time was so intelligent, and she definitely kept me on the straight and narrow with the exams and kind of pushed me to do well at school as well. So we kind of had a good setup going. She was the smart one, I was the sporty one, but she kind of brought me to that level of intelligence, I guess. So I worked really hard the last couple of years of school, and I left school a year early to go straight to university for my degree. And then I was still training, and my athletics was kind of picking up, and at school it worked out really well because my PE teacher at the time, her husband was the head of sport at Strathclyde University.
Okay.
So he was in charge of the elite athlete program and in charge of the athletes basically of the university. So she set up a meeting with me as soon as I got my results and I knew I was going to Strathclyde Uni. She set up a meeting for me to meet Neil, who was the head of sport at the time. And I had a meeting with him, explained what I wanted to do, explained my sport and everything like that. And to be honest, that was one of the things that really made university life a lot easier for me, because I had someone on my side that knew what I was doing, and I was doing my studies as well. So at Strathclyde with the elite athlete program, everything, you have a lot of benefits with that. Deadlines and stuff can kind of be altered slightly if you need it. Just different things like that, So I guess it's it helped a lot, the fact that he was the head of sport, because it was like a connection.
He could understand what you needed and the support that you needed, and the demands of the sport. Because the thing is, even though you were doing a law degree, I'm assuming you can't just leave the sport and put it in the back burner for a couple of years. Otherwise, you'll lose your momentum, and
that's the thing.
You had to manage both.
Yeah, and I've always been somebody that works very, very well in routine. Because obviously when I was at school and I was studying for my exams, I was just basically at school studying, training. That's all I did. I remember it because I went to school in Glasgow and it finished kind of at 3:45 or something, and my training was in East Kilbride, which was the other side of Glasgow, and it took, with traffic and everything, it took an hour or so to get there. So I remember what I used to do. This kind of got to my routine. I used to finish school, I would take food with me to school, extra food to have after school before training. Then I would either get a train to training, or I would get the train back to Lindsay, and my training partner's dad would pick me up at the station and go direct to training. Yep. And then I would train from 6 o'clock until maybe 8 o'clock or 8:30, and then drive from East Kilbride to Lindsay, which are complete opposite direction. So I'd get home about 9 o'clock, I'd have my dinner, I'd do whatever homework I had to do, and then I'd go to bed. That was my routine for as long, from when the age of 16. And then I went straight to university. So from 5th year at school, I went to university at 17 to start my law degree. So then, because I think that was the best thing I did, to be honest, because 6th year at school, which is your last year at school, or you hear a lot of stories of people kind of messing about and having fun with their friends. And it's just
I remember 6th year was a skive, to be honest. Played a lot of cards in the canteen.
Yeah, but I never did that. I went straight from doing my hardest exams at school, straight to my law degree. So there wasn't really a big difference in my routine. I went from studying really hard from hires to studying really hard first year uni. So I think that was honestly the best thing that I could have done, because it kept my routine very similar. And it just, instead of it being school to training, it was uni to training. And I kind of had that, momentum going, I guess, for the studying. And to be honest, I was a bit of a nerd. Like, I actually loved studying. I loved reading everything, and it's so weird because if you take my early years from high school and my latter years from high school, like, it's almost like a different person. I couldn't be bothered doing homework or any work.
It's called, I think it's called maturing as well,
Yeah, there's
and
part of that.
realizing that, you know, maybe, and when you start to focus on something a little bit more, you might realize that I actually quite enjoy it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
so-
probably during school when you were getting up to no good, constantly wanting to just be on the track, doing your passion.
My dad actually threatened to. I remember one year I was probably about 14 or 15. I hadn't started my exams yet, but I was really pissing about at school, basically.
Mhm.
Put it the only way I could put it.
Bluntly,
Um,
yeah.
and I remember my dad saying, if you don't start doing your homework and actually pulling your finger out at school, I'm not letting you go to training. And that was like the big thing. I was thinking,
I've faced that with my mum. I've faced that with my mum a good couple of times, and it's like,
and
oh,
I just remember thinking at the time, you can't do that. And
they
my dad's
can.
like, yes, I can. And my mum was the same, because my dad worked away, so it was mainly my mum and my dad obviously together. But my mum was the one at home. She had to deal with everything because my dad
Yep.
worked in the south. So she was the one that had to deal with the tantrums and everything like that. You know, I'm not doing my homework. I don't need to do that. It's pointless. Blah 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 blah. You know, just being a brat, basically growing up.
Yep.
So I was pretty difficult, like, not gonna lie. My mum had it out at that time. I don't know how she coped, but she did very well. And she really like pushed me, you know, and there was big arguments in the house. I was just like, I don't even enjoy school there. I don't want to go there. I want to go to the school where my cousins are, because like I said, I grew up with my cousins and they went to another school. I was like, I hate school. I don't want to be here, blah blah blah. But you know, the fact that they kind of pushed me to do that and like get to that point was it kind of got to the point where it was an ultimatum: you either study hard at school or you stop the sport until you learn to study hard at school. So I was just thinking, right, I need to do something here. And yeah, like, I ended up going to university and getting my degree, and that was a good achievement, actually.
Well, again, big shout out to mum and dad, because I bet at the time you were sitting in your room like, I hate my parents, and you know they're the cause of all evil. And parenthood is not all it's cracked up to be, because you sometimes need to have the hard conversations. And as much as your mum and dad have supported you so much with your athletics, you know, they've clearly reined you back in when they needed to rein you back in. And you're now sitting as a young lady able to acknowledge, and it's all part of life's journey. It's all part of the journey. But yeah, 10 years ago, I'd imagine you were like,
I definitely gave them a hard time. And I'm thinking, is that going to come back and bite me in the ass when I have my own kids? Probably. But you know,
you'll probably find it well. But at
least
you'll have the experience of having good parenting and be able to deal with it. I'm
I was
sure.
going to my mum thinking, you know, when I was acting like that, what did you actually do? Because I remember at the time thinking, they are just on at me all the time. But had they not been like that, I wouldn't have learned, like, okay, I have to stop messing about here, because if I mess about there, I'm not going to achieve that. And then, you know, everything happens, and as you get older, like as I'm getting older, I'm starting to understand, you know, I'm starting to be so grateful for how they were with me when I was younger, because I was difficult. Like, I just, you know, like I said, I always had so much energy, and I was so unfocused on anything. Like, I just didn't have a focal point, so I was just causing trouble. Like, I was just bored. That was the thing. I was bored, and when I'm bored, I just cause trouble. Like, okay, not now, but when I was younger, I was just like, right, who can I get a reaction out of? That was how it was. And I just did it with everything, and it was self-destructive, you know. That was the point. Like, and my parents saw that, and they knew like how much potential I had, and they really, really fought. Like, they did, and they ended up, you know, there was points where it was just, I can imagine my mum was like, I don't know what to do with her. Like, she is going wild. Like, and you know, I can hold my hands up to that. Like, but I learned through that, and I learned like, okay, I need to get my head out, you know, and I need to start accepting that, like, I have to do the hard work now in order to enjoy life later, you know. And thankfully I had a wake up call and realized that, and then, you know, went on to do my degree, and I applied for university in 4th year. I was really young, you know, 16 years old, applying for a law degree. My teachers were like, whoa, you know, only a year ago you're running around the corridors, you know, being an idiot. So where did this come from? But, you know, I stuck at it. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And like, you know, when I put my mind to something, like, there is no stopping me. So like that, I'm really, really glad that I had that moment of you know, I need to do something here if I do want to do sport. So that was a tough time for my parents, I'm sure, but we got there in the end, right, Mum and Dad?
That's it. You know, absolutely. So, what age were you when I've got your degree now?
So I graduated in 2018, which was when I think I just turned 21. Yeah, I just turned 21 in the March and I graduated in the May. So
Wow.
that was 2 years ago.
What an
Well,
achievement,
3 years ago.
as well as being a high performance athlete, to get a law degree, which by the way, big tick box, and it's there now, and
Yeah.
you can relax and you can focus solely as you're doing
Yeah.
on your craft, which is, but you could always you might be fighting in courtrooms in 15 years time, might be reading about you doing some great work in that field. So you've got it up your sleeve.
Yeah.
Something else I want to touch on before we go towards your move, and that is injury. We chatted a wee bit before we recorded this, and you mentioned to me that you faced quite a bad injury. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I suffered from a stress fracture in my left shin. And this kind of came around the time where I was maybe just, well, I say maybe, but I was definitely just doing far too much at once. I started my 4th year at uni, so this is my last year at uni with my dissertation and all the stresses that come with that.
Yep.
I also was working in a restaurant because from the age of 16, I spoke a lot about my routine and studying and training, but I also wanted to have that kind of social. I love socializing, I love chatting to people. I mean, I'm sure it's clear, but so I always wanted to have that social, but I couldn't really just go out, I couldn't really do the normal things, I guess, that people are doing at 16. I started working 16, 17 because I was training all the time. So I decided the best way to socialise would be to get a job. And I worked in a golf club from 16, 17. And then eventually I moved and worked in a bigger restaurant in Glasgow, which I did love, but it was tough shifts. It was working in hospitality. Anyone that does that, I take my hat off to you, because
it's tough, real hard.
Tough. And I was balancing that with a full-time law degree and full-time training. And then I was working, 11-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts at the weekends.
Mhm.
So, this was in my last year at uni, and I was just doing far too much at one time. And I remember starting my winter training kind of late 2016 and thinking, I have a bit of a weird pain in my shin, but it's nothing. And this was the big downfall for me. I didn't accept when my body was telling me, you're in pain, stop.
Mhm.
I just thought, okay, it's not causing me any problem. I'm still able to run, so it'll all be fine. And then I was working and I was studying, and I definitely wasn't eating enough because, when you're doing 100 things, to factor in eating and to factor in, getting enough food in to be able to allow your body to do everything that you're doing. I just didn't have enough knowledge on that at the time. I didn't know enough about it to be fully aware of how much I actually needed in order to do everything I was doing. So training progressed and I was in really, really good shape because I'd worked really hard. I had an amazing training group at the time, all of us doing the one event and really pushing each other. And it was right before the British Championships in January 2017. And that is my favourite, still is my favourite championship, indoor pentathlon in Sheffield. I love Sheffield. And
I lived in Sheffield for a few. I know exactly where you are. Great city for the great facilities they've got there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the city, but I bloody love the track. And I love that competition. I've always loved that competition. So I was gearing up for the British champs in indoor, and then I remember doing a hurdle session, and I just came off the hurdle, and I was thinking, okay, that's really sore now. I'd been training on this for 2 months, and I was like, right, that is really sore. I can't even come off the hurdle properly. And I sat down on the track, and I had a lump on my shin, and I was just thinking, I have no idea what that could be. So, and my coach as well at the time, he didn't really have the experience of big injuries with athletes because he started us as a young group and he was taking us through the journey too. Okay. So he didn't really know, but I think it was him that said, right, we need to get that scanned, I think, because that doesn't look good. And you've been talking about it for a while now and all that. So I remember I got the scan on the 3rd of January. I remember this so clearly. I got the scan on the 3rd of January, which was maybe 5 or 6 days out from the competition. I was still thinking I'm going to Sheffield. I was fully of the mindset I will be in Sheffield. And my doctor at the time was like, yeah, you've got a stress fracture. And I just remember being like, what's a stress fracture? I'd never even heard what a stress fracture was. I was thinking all right, what does that mean? And he was like, it's not great. It's right on the flex point of your shin. Mm-hmm. So when I was walking up and down stairs, when I'm walking at all, your shin, I was right on the point where your shin flexes basically to allow you to take the impact.
Yep.
So I got put in a boot my indoor season was out. I couldn't compete at all indoors. And after 6 weeks, I got another scan, and it just wasn't healing properly. Like, they just said, like, my doctor was like, there is no sign of healing in this. So either you wait a year and see if it heals by itself, but because of the position of it, like I said, on the flex point, like the chances of it healing on its own were very slim. So he was like, you know, I think we just need to operate. And I was thinking, oh my, I had never even, like, I was thankfully a child that had never been to hospital, you know. I was like, I'd never had any problems. I was never in hospital. My brother broke his arm when he was like 3 or something, and that was like, as you know, as big of injuries in our family had gone.
Yep.
So I was just thinking, like, oh, I was really nervous, you know. I was just like, what does this mean? Like, I'm going to have a metal rod in my leg with like pins going across, and I'm thinking, oh God, this is not good news. So I got the operation in March 2017, and that was like the start of a really tough couple of years for me, because coming back from injury the first time round was fine. Like, I did all my recovery in the hospital. I did all the things I was supposed to do recovery wise, and I was back training normally from August that year. But something just wasn't, like, it just didn't feel natural. Like, having the metal, I mean, they did warn me of that before the operation, that, you know, because of the position of it and everything like that, you know, I might still feel some pain, but it's because of the plate, it's not because of the fracture anymore. So I was like, right, well, that's fine, like, I can cope with pain. But like, going back to training, and I just wasn't moving the way I used to move. Like, I think I was kind of favouring one side because it was kind of still painful, and, you know, I could take impact, but it was just not the same, you know. And I was just like, well, I guess this is just how it's going to be, so I'm just going to have to suck it up. But as time goes on, and as more, like, you're uncomfortable, you don't feel the same, like, that starts to play a role in, like, the enjoyment kind of coming out of it a bit, because you don't move the way you used to move, or it doesn't feel as good, so you're not enjoying it as much. And it was kind of the start of like a downhill. This was like the real start of like the downhill for me, because I was just thinking, this isn't fun anymore. Like, I'm showing up to training in pain. I'm not jumping as smoothly. I'm not running as smoothly. Like, you know, it's just, I just don't think I enjoy this, to be honest. And my coach, to be fair to him at the time, like, really pushed for me to get back into competition, because he knew that's what I loved. I loved being on the start line. I loved competing, and that's what I really got my energy from. But like, I remember, so that we're now into 2018, so I'd done my winter training and kind of got myself back into half decent shape. Went down to Sheffield, love Sheffield, and I did like pretty well indoors, considering I'd just had my injury and all that, and it was my first one back from injury. I medalled at the British Indoor Champs, and, you know, everything from the outside seemed like everything was going really well, but like from the inside, I'm thinking, like, this still doesn't feel right. I'm still not enjoying this. And it was also the year that I properly started my last relationship. So I had a new relationship as well, and, you know, that was exciting. He did sport as well, so I was kind of choosing to travel and support his sport, which was having an impact on my training. It was also
What sport? What was it similar? What sport was it? What sport was your
partner? No, he played rugby, so that was completely different for me. I wasn't from a rugby background. I didn't know rugby at all, so that was quite exciting for me to get involved in that and kind of go to the games. And, you know, rugby's a very social sport, you know, like, there's teammates and there's partners involved, and, you know, it was a really, really nice environment to be in, and I loved, you know, being around everything. And but at the same time, you know, it was kind of impacting on what I was doing, because I wasn't happy in my own sport. I was spending more time with him, more time kind of following his sport around and traveling a bit more and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. You know, I chose to do that, and I was really happy.
He's obviously doing it at a high level.
Yeah, so like he did that at a high level. So it was, you know, for me, I was just thinking, you know, well, he's at a high level, I'm going to support him with that. And then I remember going to a competition in Tenerife. So this was maybe like May or June. It was the start of the season anyway. And I remember sitting in my hotel room. I was there on my own because my dad, for whatever reason, couldn't come out. And it was just me and my coach, and I was, you know, it was foreign athletes, and you get put in an athlete hotel, so you're in a room. And I remember crying before my competition and just thinking, like, I do not want to be here. Like, I feel like I'm here because I need to be here. And I remember being at that competition, and just, it was very clear in my performance, like, I wasn't where I should be mentally for a high level sport. Like, I was just not in the mindset. And I remember saying to myself, I will never come to a competition if I feel like this again, ever. Even if it's the last one I do, I'll never do it. And I didn't even finish the competition. I had to stop early, and I was supposed to stay until the day after because it was a heptathlon. So I was supposed to go home the day after the competition finished, but I didn't even get to the javelin. And I remember phoning my boyfriend at the time and saying, like, I need to get out of here. I can't even stay another day. Like, I just feel so sad and I'm in so much pain and everything. And you know, he was great at the time. You know, he said, right, just get the next flight home. Like, don't worry about it. Just take the next flight and just get out of there. So that's what I did. I left my coach in Tenerife at the time.
Did you tell him? Did you tell him before you left?
Yeah, he was with his wife, so he kind of, I think he was staying out for a few more days anyway. But I just said to him, look, I need to go. I just was really upset. I was in a lot of pain, and I flew home midway through the competition. Basically, I went straight to the airport and got the next flight home. And phoned my doctor when I got home. I said, look, we need to do something about this. And he kind of gave me the choice. He was like, look, obviously there's going to be a risk with taking the plate out, but you either take the plate out and see where it goes, continue, you know, your rehab and get back into things and see how it goes, or you choose to specialise. Because I wasn't really getting pain in a couple of events. Like, I could do the long jump, for instance, and it was fine and all that. So like, you could specialise or get it out and see how it goes. And that was a real kind of turning point for me, because I just didn't feel like I'd finished what I wanted to do in the heptathlon, you know. And my parents, again, were so supportive, and my dad was like, go with what you feel inside, you know. If you don't feel like you're finished, then all we can do is take the chance and see, and it can't be any worse than how you feel in this moment. So, you know, they were really supportive, and I ended up getting the operation, and it was quite good timing for me, because I had a week before my operation and I went on holiday and I was able to just relax, you know. I went to Cyprus, it was amazing because it was a wee island. There wasn't really that much to do. And we just had an amazing time, you know, just like totally switched off from the world. And then I got home and had my operation, and I felt like I started fresh. And honestly, it was the best decision I have made, having that second operation, because you know, I just felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulder. I felt immediately better. As soon as the plate was out, I was joking to my doctor, being like, you screwed that in far too tight. Like, that is the problem here. You just screwed that in far too tight. But I got it taken out, and honestly, that is hands down the best decision I've ever made. And I'm so glad I went with that. And I listened to my gut, you know, and just thought, like, I'm not finished here. I need to just see what else I can do. And like, I got that out, and yeah, just went on from there. And I've honestly never looked back with the heptathlon. I absolutely love it, and I'm loving training for it again and everything. And I'm so grateful that I decided to do that and give it another go, you know. But it was a real turning point. Like,
it sounds like it could have been a moment that changed everything. You might not have been in the sport anymore. You know,
I'm just going to move into like, but it was
interesting. It's interesting you talk about that, because the mental side of things, it just shows that everybody thinks sports people are just living the dream. It's all hunky dory. You know, there's no chat. You know, they've got the life.
Yeah.
But every sports person you talk to, it doesn't matter what field they come from, there's always mental challenges that you face, and you're obviously strong-minded. But it got that bad that you had to leave an event. You had to leave a tournament.
And you know how I felt so embarrassed, like, because the thing is, see, when you're not at a high level, like, you're having to pay your own flights there. My coach paid his flight there. It was a lot of time and effort. It was a lot of people's time and effort. And I just remember thinking, I am wasting everybody's time coming to this event. Like, I'm wasting people's energy, time. Like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? But I was honestly breaking my heart in my hotel room, thinking I can't go out there, because it was a morning session and an afternoon session. They split the day, and I'd done the long jump in the morning. And I was thinking, I cannot go and do the rest of this competition. Like, I physically couldn't bring myself to go. And I have never been like that in competition. Like I said, I love competition. I absolutely buzz off them. Like, you know, I'm like a kid still when it comes to competitions. And I just knew something wasn't right. And I just knew that, and that's why I promised myself, like, I will never go to a competition when I'm in this mindset, because it's not worth it. And I didn't want to lose that fun side of it, you know, and I just didn't feel like myself. And I just knew that it wasn't, I just had to go. And it was very dramatic at the time, to be honest, to just leave straight away. But that's how much I had to even get out.
You got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you would only have made the injury worse. You would only have probably made your mental state worse by going out. You might have hurt yourself even more the following day. So you made a call, and it was clearly the right call. You had your second operation, and you've come out the other end of it, and it's been a positive. And I'm really happy to hear that, you know, you're pain free and you're able to compete and enjoy again, because that would have been it was sad to hear you talk about that there, because you're so positive about your craft and how much you love it. And it's not always what it's cracked up to be. You're going to face moments that are not as pleasant, and you've handled it again with the support of your family and other people around you. And it's great to hear.
Yeah.
You then made a change. You decided that it was time to leave Scotland.
Yeah.
Which is a really hard decision sometimes, I know, because the weather here and everything else is just so good. But you decided to move to France. Why did you decide to make that change, and how did it come about?
So my boyfriend at the time, like I said, played rugby, and he had the opportunity to move out there, and he moved out in July 2018, I think, which was just when I graduated. So I'd just finished uni, and he moved out to Paris. And I remember at the time being like, oh God, some people just living the life, you know, and I'm stuck here training. But I spent a lot of that summer traveling back and forth, and then, you know, because like I said, because I'd just had my second operation, I wasn't competing in that summer. Yep. So I had a lot of time, you know, and I was kind of traveling back and forth to Paris, back home, and, you know, training in between, but not like, I just didn't have my own routine, you know what I mean? Like, I was just thinking like, and like I said to you, I work very well in routine, and I just lost my routine. I didn't have university, so that was one thing out the window. I was training, but I was injured. Well, I was coming back from another operation, so my training wasn't like a routine either. It was just kind of rehab stuff and just getting back into things. And then I was traveling to Paris a lot. I think I was traveling out to Paris maybe every 10 days. Like, it was a lot, you know, because I just loved the city, and obviously I wanted to go over and see him. So, you know, I was traveling back and forth a lot, and I'd been speaking to him at the time and just saying, and my parents as well, you know, just I felt like it was coming up to the point where I just needed a change. Like, it wasn't anything to do, it was nothing personal with my coach at the time or anything, but, you know, like, he'd been coaching me since I was 13 years old, and I was getting older and I was developing, and I just felt like it was the right time for me to make a change. And it wasn't necessarily going to be France. Like, you know, I spoke with my parents and everything, and I spoke with obviously my boyfriend at the time, and I was telling him how I felt, and I was thinking of my options. And there was a couple coaches in England that I was really interested to work with. One in Newcastle, which would have been ideal because it wasn't so far from home. The other one, obviously, like, there was a few other a bit further down south, and, you know, that was an option for me. But with my boyfriend at the time being in Paris, I was just thinking, well, I may as well explore my options there, because if I'm going to be traveling over there to see him, that's going to disrupt my training anyway. So I'm thinking, like, I may as well go and see what my options are, and kind of take it from there. And if something happens there, then great. But I wasn't going to move over to France unless there was a setup that was better than what I had at home, you know, because regardless of it being a relationship and wanting to be there for him, like, I couldn't just move my whole life there without having something for myself, you know. Which it turned out to be the right decision. But, like, you know, when that was all happening, you know, I ended up managing to get an appointment with my coach now. But because he was the head of, well, he is like one of the best combined events coach in the whole of France. You know, he was training at the institute in France, and he had a really good group there. So I was thinking, right, if I can just get a meeting with this guy, then I can see like what coaches are about, because I just wasn't expecting to be able to train at the institute, to be honest, because, you know, at this stage I wasn't even in the institute in Scotland, you know, like, I wasn't even part of my own institute, never mind being a part of the French one. So I managed to get a meeting, and it was all very private, you know, because the institute in Paris is very, like, top level, you know, top level sports people there. It's gated security, there's security guards at the front, nobody can get into that facility unless you are training there. So he picked me up in his car outside the training facilities and drove me in for the meeting. I'm thinking, wow, this is like a palace. I felt like I was in an American movie. I'm looking around thinking, what is this place? They have the big medical centre, you get the big outdoor track, you get the indoor track. And I had my meeting with him, and just, I was so honest, to be honest. Like, he said, I was so honest to be honest, but he said to me like, what are you looking for? And I was just like, this is my current situation. I don't have anything special to show you on paper, but I know that I work hard and I know what I want and I know what my qualities are and I know what I can bring, you know, to the table. I just need you to kind of tell me what my options are, you know. And the meeting was very much a case of like, well, it's very difficult to train here. You know, what's your situation? Are you going to move over here or you not? And I explained to him like I wouldn't move over unless I had a really good setup like to come into. And I don't know, like I guess the conversation just went really well. And I think he told me later on, which is really funny, he said to me like, you know, there was nothing showy, like you just told me, you were brutally honest about yourself and you told me like what you wanted to achieve, and I could see that you were somebody that was really passionate and driven. So he was like, you know, I wanted to kind of take that challenge upon myself because his athletes are very high level, you know, and I'm obviously not at that level, but I have qualities that would help them as well. You know, I was strong at the 800, his athletes weren't strong at the 800 and things like that. And I think he just saw something in me, I guess, that like he wanted to coach me. And I remember him phoning me the day later, just being like, so do you want to be coached by me? And I remember being like, oh my God. Because this guy is like I said, you know,
big, you know, high level.
He is
the sport, and you know, it's big, important, and the fact that you weren't even in the institute in Scotland.
I know, like Matt, you know, I wasn't even.
Shows how much you impressed him. He obviously bought into you.
Well, you know, I'm law degree and all that. I can persuade people. No, I'm kidding. But like he obviously, like you said, he obviously saw something in me that he wanted to kind of put his faith in me. And you know, it was difficult to get in there. You know, like I had to go to my my institute and say, look, you know, in order to get in here, you're going to have to write a pretty good letter. But I wasn't even in their institute, so it was a bit of an awkward one. But I have a good relationship with some of the people in Scottish athletics, and they're very supportive, and they knew my situation with, you know, my current setup and how I wasn't really that happy and all that kind of thing. So, you know, hats off to them. Mark Pollard, who was, I don't know if he still is, but I think he is. He's, you know, one of the top people in Scottish athletics. I had a meeting with him and he kind of helped set everything up, and I needed to just make sure everything was, because my coach had to contact the French Federation and get, you know, to be allowed to train in the institute and stuff, and it was all set up that way. And I remember my coach saying, I had the meeting with my coach now, my French coach, in December, so that would be December 2 years ago now. Around 2 years ago now, I had the meeting with him, and he phoned me and he was like, we're about to start a new block just after New Year, so can you move out then? And that was maybe 2 weeks, and I'm thinking, can I move out then? And I hadn't really even spoke to my mum and dad properly about it, because like I said, I wasn't going to start throwing out all these ideas unless I had a plan in place, you know, to say, right, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it. Yep. So I hadn't even spoke to my mum and dad. And by the way, I'd started a master's degree at Strathclyde Uni. So I was in the middle of it, well, not in the middle, but I'd started a master's degree in September. And I was thinking, but it wasn't really something that I wanted to do, you know, it was just like, I'm just going to do it because why not? I need a routine. It was almost like I needed a routine. So I was like, right, I'm going to do a master's, as you do. But then I decided, like, this is an amazing opportunity that I cannot turn down, you know? And obviously I had to speak, like I spoke with my boyfriend at the time, and obviously I had to make sure that he was all good with everything. And he was so supportive, you know, he was like, of course, like you can't turn down this opportunity, you know, like, of course, like move out, you know. And it was all very much a case of like, okay, this is going quite fast, but he supported it. That's what I wanted to do for myself. And, you know, my parents were happy. And, you know, everybody was kind of saying at the time, like, oh, are you sure you want to move in together so soon? And of course, like everybody's going to be cautious, but I wasn't moving to France to move in with my boyfriend. I was moving to France for an opportunity for myself that just happened to be so much better than I thought was going to be. And, you know, if my boyfriend was on board with it and was happy for me to move into the house, like I was traveling there a lot anyway, like I said.
You're going there, like you said, you know, every 10 or so days and quite regularly. So that would have been taking its toll on you as well, all the traveling. So you're better not. It made sense. It all made sense.
It just made sense. And that's the thing, like, the thing that people didn't know is they all thought she's moving out there for him. Like, oh God, that's a bit soon, blah, blah, blah. And I get that, but people didn't understand, like, you know, I wasn't moving out there. I moved out there because obviously I wanted to be with him, like, and support him as well. But it was amazing major step up in my own career. So I was just thinking, like, you know, regardless, and maybe like looking back in hindsight, we should have maybe spoke about it a wee bit more, and you know, maybe it would have been better if I'd kind of moved out and gone, because you could live at the institute. Maybe it would have been better to do that, because there was a lot of, you know, he lived quite far away from my training facility. He was the other side of Paris, you know, so you know, on hindsight, we maybe should have spent a bit more time kind of figuring out how it was going to work.
How far were you traveling? How long are we talking?
Things like that, rather than me just jumping the gun and moving in. But see when you're in it and you're just thinking, well, why wouldn't I move in to the house? I mean, I didn't even think about that, because I just thought, well, of course, like I want to spend more time with him, and like it makes sense to move into the house. But yeah, maybe if I could go back, I would change that part about it. But at the same time, like, you know, it is what it is, and that happened. So like,
how far were you traveling between?
So I was driving, right, bearing in mind the French drivers are crazy. So and it was the other side of the road and everything, but I was driving like an hour, maybe an hour there and an hour back every single day.
Especially when you're doing sport and you're training high level, because you're going to be tired. You're going to need all your energy. It's a lot of traveling, 2 hours a day. And
a lot. Like, and I think thinking back as well, it just like me driving, our schedules didn't really match up at this point, because I was training in the afternoon, because some of my training partners were finishing their studies, so we all had to train kind of afternoon, and you know, our schedules didn't really match up, so I didn't see him. He would leave for training at 8 in the morning or something, and I wouldn't get home until 9 at night, so you know, I barely even saw him. And I think like we ended up kind of not staying together after about 4 months, and like I think looking back, that kind of had a bit to play in it. You know, our schedules weren't matching up. He was kind of doing his thing. He was traveling back to Scotland. I was kind of trying to figure my way out in my new training group and all that. But you know, so that was kind of the start of a different challenge, if that makes sense, because you know, I moved out there with the idea that we were going to be there together and kind of have each other, and then very quickly it became me being in France on my own, you know, so I was just a bit like, okay, this is going to be a different experience. So I
mean, you made a mature decision though between the two of you. It doesn't sound like, you know, you get breakups and they can be but both of you were very, you know, ambitious. You're both doing sport at the top level, and it sounds like it was just the right route for both of you to take.
Yeah, like, to be honest, you know, this is the thing, you know, I know for a fact I was very quiet when all this happened, because I was obviously trying to figure a lot of stuff out myself and what I was going to do. And obviously, like, breakups regardless, like, you know, it's not easy for anyone, if that makes sense, but I was just trying to figure out, right, what's the best thing for me to do in this moment. And I think a lot of people would have thought, oh, she's just going to come home, but I don't actually think a lot of people knew at the time. But you know, I just thought, right, I remember having the conversation with my dad on the way to the airport when I was moving, and he said to me, oh, well, you know, are you all right? Like, what if something happens? And I just remember saying to my dad, you know, if something happens, I'll deal with it, you know, when it comes. And obviously I wasn't expecting to have to deal with it so soon, but I just remember reminding myself, like, okay, I said this, I chose to come out here for myself, so I'm going to deal with it, and I'm just going to have to take it on the chin. And
hi everyone, thanks to Pure Sport CBD for sponsoring this week's episode. Pure Sport CBD are the world's most trusted and certified CBD brand. Pure Sport CBD was founded by 2 professional athletes. These professional athletes could not find a CBD brand that could guarantee them passing a drugs test. Upon realising how effective CBD can be for dealing with recovery, sleep, pain, inflammation and mental well-being, the 2 athletes decided to start their own CBD brand, and Pure Sport was born. I have been using these products myself for a while now and absolutely love them. In particular, I use it for back pain and anxiety, and it's had a positive impact on both of those areas. If you'd like to try some for yourself, please use the code QS15 for 15% off products on their website. The website is www.puresportcbd.com, and you can find them on Instagram at Pure Sport CBD.
So you mentioned the traveling aspect when you were commuting between training.
Yeah.
How far was that?
So that was about an hour travel, because the way that I had to train, it was in the afternoon, so it was rush hour on the Peripherique. And if you know Paris, you know that motorway is tragic. Like, it took me an hour or so, maybe longer sometimes, to drive from the I always get mixed up with west and east, to drive from the west side of Paris all the way across to the east side of Paris. So, you know, my partner's house at the time was in the southwest, and my training was in the northeast. So it took me an hour or so to drive there and back every single day, you know, and like,
that's quite a lot when you're training as well, and you're going to be tired.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things that, like, we just didn't think about at the time when I moved over. You know, I just thought, like, I'll move into the house because that makes sense, and I'll just drive to and from training every day, because I wasn't really doing anything else over there. So I thought, okay, it'll be fine. But, like, eventually that kind of takes its toll, you know, on not only on my training, but also, like, when your schedules don't really match up, and, you know, he's coming back from training in the afternoon and I'm not home till 9 p.m. Like, it just didn't really work in that sense. And you know, and then you know, just things like didn't work out the way I originally planned. And you know, I guess that's on my part. You know, I didn't think about it logistically. I just thought, like, what an amazing experience. I'm gonna, you know, be over in Paris, we're going to be together, I won't have to commute back from Scotland, and you know, I'm joining a new training group, which was amazing in itself. But you don't realise at the time how much that also takes out of you emotionally, because
you're only young. You're only young as well. You know, exactly. You know, that's it's a lot. Most people go to an office, they work, you know, and they come home at the same time. Being a professional sports person has got a lot more. You know, it's not easy. So there's a lot but you wouldn't have known that until you went over.
And that's the thing, like, and joining a new training group, a French training group, you know, my coach at the time didn't really speak great English, so I'm thinking, oh geez, like, and I'm having to learn, you know, the way that they do things, and it was very different to the way that I'd been training before, and all that kind of stuff. And like, it was just a bit of a challenge. It was a challenge anyway, moving, but I'm one of these people that just kind of goes along with things. You know, I just take things in my stride. I don't think about it at the time, but it's only kind of looking back that I realise that maybe that was part of why my relationship broke down in a way, because it was just kind of like, you know, we weren't on the same, you know, it was just, everything was kind of, we were just going through the motions of stuff, and it wasn't like, it was almost like the relationship kind of got put to one side, because he had to focus on his sport and I had to focus on my sport. And I guess that's just life, like, that's just part of it. And yeah, like I said kind of before, it's not what I was expecting to happen. I wasn't expecting to kind of end up in this situation on my own, but you know, nothing ended on bad terms, you know, like, nothing was bad at the time. I was kind of just more like upset, I guess, but I was also quite scared, because I was then thinking, I've moved my life out here, what the heck am I going to do? Like, you know, and I guess the easiest option would be just to have gone home and go back to my comfort and be surrounded by my friends and family to kind of cope in a way. But at the same time, I was thinking, like, I'm about to start competitions. I was injured for 2 years as well, to put into perspective. You know, I hadn't competed in 2 years. So I was thinking, like, I'm about to start a competition season that I've been waiting for 2 years. I'm finally in a training group that I feel happy in, and you know, it wasn't the best timing, because I was about to start competitions, and I was just thinking, like, am I going to be homeless? But you know, like, it's all these things, and you're just thinking, like, I've never lived on my own. I lived with my best friend in an apartment in Glasgow before I moved to France. I lived with her, so I was never on my own, and I was only 20 minutes away from my parents' house. And you know, so to actually end up kind of on your own in a different country was a whole different ballgame.
On your own, or not even with a flat, not even with your friend around to have a flat.
I have no friends at this stage, because when you have a partner, I guess, like, you don't. My friends were the girls who were partners of the players, you know. And although like at the time I was just kind of like trying to think, right, what am I going to do? It was almost like survival mode, if that makes sense. Like you just kind of think, right, what can I control right now? Which is I need to find somewhere to live. I need to try and focus on my training, and I just need to get on with it, because any breakup's hard. And I'm not saying it was easy for him, because I'm sure it wasn't. It wasn't an easy choice for him. He knew the situation. He knew I'd moved out, and I think it was a lot on him emotionally as well. And my partner, like, he's a great guy. His whole family, like, they are amazing. They're an amazing family. Like, everybody who knows them knows that they're an amazing family. And that was the hardest part, because I think they also felt quite bad in a way. Like, I was very close with his sister and his mum as well, because she used to come out to Paris all the time. And I remember her being out around the time everything was kind of happening, and having a conversation with her, and I could feel that she was upset. It was like, it was hard on everybody. And I just remember like thinking, right, this is really not what I wanted, but I can't think badly of someone for doing the right thing, if that makes sense. So although it's not what I wanted at the time, it was the right thing for both of us. We both had to kind of just take some time apart to like grow in our own journeys. And he's at such a high level in his sport that there's so much pressure on him to be at his best. And he almost didn't need the stress of like me being stressed, because I had an injury at the time and stuff, and I was like, oh god, I'm injured and I'm having to drive all the time, blah blah blah. You know how it is, like, you're just end up. So I could never be annoyed at somebody doing the right thing for themselves. That was the main point. And although it's not what I wanted, like, how can you be annoyed at somebody, or how can you say something bad about somebody for doing what's right for them as well? And like I said from the very beginning, I was so supportive of what he was doing. I wanted to be there at every single game. I wanted the best for him as well. So I was just like, right, I don't know how I'm going to cope, but I'm not going to make this any more difficult for him. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of just had to very quickly sort myself out and just think, right, okay, what are my options? And I have to give it to my mum and dad, because they could have easily said, right, come home, it's not going to work, you tried, and that's it. But there was not even the question of me coming home, like, it didn't even cross my mind. It didn't come out my mum and dad's mouth, whether it crossed their mind or not. I think they just wanted me to be okay, if that makes sense. And whatever I wanted to do, they were fully on board with it. And there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to stay in France. There was points where I thought, can I actually do this on my own? Can I actually be okay in a country where I've not got any support system round about me? I had my training group and my coach, who obviously knew the situation, but I didn't really say to them like the ins and outs. I wasn't like, I wasn't going to training breaking down, basically. It was the time where I was like, right, I need to hold myself together. I need to just get through whatever it is I need to do. I'm about to start competitions, and, it was tough. It wasn't easy. I'm not saying that it was an easy ride, and like, I'm strong, but there are times where you just think, can I actually do this? Like, this is not what I planned, basically. And, that's life. Like, you get thrown curveballs, and you just have to take them in your stride. And I guess the bottom line is, I was thinking, I came out here for a reason. Yes, okay, the main reason why I came out here didn't really work out, but I came out here for myself. And I think that's something that, I would say to people time and time again, like, whatever you decide to do in your life, whether there's partners involved, whether there's, friends involved, whatever, like, at the end of the day, it has to be for yourself as well. Because if I moved out there without it being for myself too, I would have just been on the next flight back home, and then it's like, okay, well, that was a bit awkward, like, just a bit of a scratch of the head. I've done the biggest.
Actually, you actually didn't move there until you had a reason to move there as well. You mentioned that earlier. You didn't just move there, right? I'm going to stay in an apartment and I'm just going over to stay. You were considering going to Newcastle. You said you were considering other options. So you went there when you had something as well in place. So it wasn't, you've been totally honest about everything you've talked about there. Continue on what you're saying, but I've just wanted to put that in there because, you had a purpose all along. You had it, you went up, and I think just listening to you there, it's very mature. The way, both you and your ex-partner have. I mean, you mentioned that you're saying there's no bad feeling, still friends.
No, that's the thing. Like, with that whole situation, there never was any arguing. That was a bit that actually made it the hardest, because we actually always got on really well as friends, and we still do. That's the thing. We're so similar in many ways. Like, you know, our sense of humour and everything. And I got on so well with his whole family. So I know there's no blood from their side. There's certainly no blood from my side. No bad blood from my side. And it's just a question of like, we're both adults here. We both know that it's not working the way that we thought. You know, we just have to do what's right. And that's the thing, when you're both sports people, you have to eliminate the things that are getting in the way, or the things that aren't allowing you to focus on what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment in time, you know, things just weren't working out the way that we thought. So it was like, well, I mean, I wouldn't have made that decision, but at the same time, looking back, it's definitely allowed me to kind of find my own,
Yeah.
you know, and really learn and grow up a lot. Like, I really had to grow up very quickly because
Overnight, pretty much.
yeah, like, you know, I think anyone dealing with something like that, it's going to be difficult, you know, like, but having to do it in a foreign country kind of on your own, that really, at points I was thinking like, geez, I just don't know if this is for me, you know, like, because all I'd ever known kind of being there was a different situation, and now I was kind of having to navigate my way through a foreign country on my own. I had to try and find my own feet, if that makes sense. And although I had my mum and dad kind of on the other end of the phone, and I had my best friend on the other end of the phone, it's not really the same when you don't have someone to give you a big hug, or, you know what I mean, just kind of pick you up. And that was quite a difficult time, I'm not going to lie. And finding an apartment in Paris when you're not French, you don't have a job, you are training, like, that's your full-time job, like, that was a whole different, I just wasn't expecting it to be that difficult.
Was it hard? Was it difficult?
And I had competitions in between that, you know, so I'm trying to come back. I'm trying to show everybody like this was the right decision I made moving, you know, I'm in good shape. I had a lot of pressure on myself because I'd been out for 2 years. I'd moved coach, and obviously people in Scotland were thinking, did she make the right decision? And I was desperate to show everybody like, I've made the right decision, like, I am improving. But then when you're dealing with like essentially heartbreak, and you're dealing with everything, you know, having to find an apartment, you're dealing with just trying to keep yourself kind of happy. I don't know, it was difficult. Like, there was just a lot happening at once, and then trying to find an apartment. I just remember one time I was on the bus and there was this wee old lady, and it was just, everything was like really overwhelming. I was thinking, because every single apartment I went to view, they said no, basically, because my dossier, like my file, wasn't strong enough, because I didn't. In France, you have to earn 3 times the amount of 1 month's rent.
Right, okay.
And if you're not a student, you can't have a guarantor. So that's the rules here. And I just remember thinking, every single place that I think I'm going to get, they turn me down. And I remember sitting on this bus, and I was like getting a bit teary, because I was just thinking, I actually physically can't do this. As much as I want to be here, I can't. Everywhere is like rejecting me. And this wee old lady just came and she just hugged me on the bus. And I remember at the time, this is pre-corona, fully embracing this old lady. And I was like, and I remember thinking, I've fully lost the plot here. I'm letting this random lady give me a hug.
Humanity. That's all it was. She obviously could see how upset you were.
Like, we didn't even speak, because I think she knew I was foreign, because I'd phoned my mum being like, oh, I can't do this. And I think she just knew, like, this young girl is either, there's something going on anyway. So she just came over and she just sat and put her arms around me. And I remember actually like going into it, I'm thinking, this is a bit strange, but I'm going to take it, because I hadn't had a hug in so long.
Listen, people always say these things are weird, but you know, she's probably seen you like her. She's probably got a daughter that, and you were needing a mother figure at that point, and the bus was the right moment to share that moment.
Exactly. And you know what? It's all I needed, because I was like, I hadn't had a hug in so long, and I was just like, I'm gonna just enjoy this moment. This wee old lady, don't know who she is, like, thanks.
God bless her. God bless her.
I know, because it really, really picked me up, and I just thought, right, I can do this. Like, and I just remember going to my coach, and I was explaining everything to my coach, and the next day at training, he came with a file this thick, and he was like, give that to any agent. If you find an apartment, give them that. And it was all his files. He was like, I'll be your guarantor for your apartment. He was like, just don't miss the payments, like, kind of joking with me.
Yeah.
And you know that, like, when when he gave me everything, because they just basically wouldn't accept my family as my
It
guarantor.
had to be somebody with a history in France.
It had to be somebody in France, and I mean, I can't exactly go to my ex-boyfriend at the time saying, "Hi, I know we're not, but can you be my guarantor?" Like, I just couldn't do that. Like, who wants that,
Yeah.
And so but I did think about it, because I'm thinking, right, if this is going to be my last resort, I will go to that door and I'll say, "Listen, I fully accept that this relationship's over, but can you be my guarantor?" No, but thankfully it didn't come to that. My coach gave me all his files, him and his wife gave me everything. And I was honestly, like, I remember bursting out crying at training, and I didn't cry at training. Like, that was the thing. I just kept my personal life off the track, basically. But I remember just bursting out crying, because I was like, I have a French guarantor. Like, I know I'm going to get an apartment. And I would never have asked him to do that. It's not something I would have asked, because he didn't ask me to be in this situation. He didn't sign up for that. He just signed up to coach me. He didn't sign up to basically be my father figure, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I just remember being like, okay, first of all, he wants me to stay, because if he didn't, it would have been easy for him to say, look, it's not quite worked out for you, good luck. But he wanted me to stay in the group. He was willing to actually put his name on paper and sign something for me to live there. And he was so supportive. And I remember just feeling like so thankful, like, okay, right. As soon as I had my apartment, my dad flew out because my dad also had to sign paper. Like, it's so complicated here. Like, he had to sign paper.
Sounds it, bloody hell.
So my coach was involved, my dad was involved. He flew out from Glasgow, signed the papers that afternoon, and flew back the same day, or flew back the next day. I can't remember.
Things our parents do.
There for 24 hours. I got the keys to my apartment, and I got the keys to my apartment just in time to get back home to do a competition for Scotland. I got a Scotland vest for the first time in 3 years since my injury. And like, things started to pick up.
That probably picked you up though. Took your mind off things. At least you've got your apartment sorted.
Yeah, see, as soon as I had my apartment sorted, I was thinking, right, I'm staying here at least for another year. Do you know what I mean? And that was a real turning point for me, because the full summer I was very unsure. I was thinking, I'm just trying to get through it. I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other. That was all it was. And like, that's the thing, like, everybody's going to face these kind of things in their life, sports person or not. You're always going to have something that really tests your character, I guess, and like tests your inner strength. And that sounds like really cringe, but at the same time, like, looking back,
it doesn't sound cringe at all. It does. You're always going to have everybody. It doesn't matter what background. There is things that are going to make life tough.
Yeah.
And you need to find something inside to bring you through that.
And that, like, I did question things at times, and obviously I was really upset for a long time, because it wasn't even, I mean, it's the same for a lot of people. Like, it wasn't even the fact that the journey wasn't really how I'd imagined, but you also don't have that comfort. I didn't have that comfort, which was my ex-boyfriend, do you know what I mean? Because we're both from the same country. Like I said, we always got on really well. And I just like, and relationship aside, I just like kind of missed that kind of comfort side of things. And I was like, it was a sad situation, but at the same time, like I said, it was the right thing to do. And it was almost just a case of, I just have to focus on what I have to do right now. And then as soon as, I started to focus on, okay, things are getting better, things are starting to, it was just like, my coach said to me, actually, my coach was so good at the time. He just said, look, you don't have to put yourself out there. He was like, just take time. He was like, there's a lot happening right now, and you're trying to figure a lot of stuff out. And it was like one thing after the other, when you're just like, oh God, it was like I was drowning. I'm like,
yeah.
And I was so desperate to compete, like so desperate to compete. And I'm so glad that I did compete, but at the same time, like, because it just kept my mind off things, but it just made the days very long, like, because when you're in competition season for training, you're only training maybe an hour and a half a day, because it's very short, fast and sharp. So thankfully I did have a bit more time to get myself sorted. And then I went home. Once I got my apartment and stuff, I went home, competed, and then I had an amazing off season. I went to Ibiza and I went to Croatia with my best friends. Like, I just partied basically for a month. And I really had a great time. Like, and then when I went back to France to start my winter training in September, I was moving into my new apartment. My mum came over, got it all sorted with me, get everything settled. I was starting a fresh block at training. I had my own place. And then I just kind of found my way in the city. I started to go out a wee bit at weekends. Like, I met some friends, and you know, that way where you just find yourself. And I'm such a social person, like I knew that it would be fine. It was just getting to that point. It was just getting to the point where I was like, I just need to get settled. I just need to, and it kind of puts a bit of context on why maybe I don't have a good score on paper right now. Like I don't have the number, like the points total that I know I'm capable of, because if you think about it, like 2 years of injury, then last year I had everything going on top of competitions. I still managed to come out and kind of break through a barrier that I've been trying to get for a long time, which is break the 5,000 points barrier in the heptathlon. I did that with a Scotland vest on, and it was such a buzz. I felt like myself again. I was happy. I was, you know, I just felt like I've actually broke through the hard part, you know? And it's like, on paper, yeah, I don't really have anything to show, like, very impressive, but I know what I'm capable of. And this is the first time in a long time that I'm training really well, I'm healthy, I'm happy, and you know, it's been nearly 2 years since all that happened now, and I'm really like, I've never been so content on my own, if that makes sense. Like I'm so content with my own wee life, you know, and like I ended up moving to the south of France, and like I joked, like I've said, you know, relationship went south and then I followed it, I went south. So like that's the thing. But I mean, I joke about it now, but yeah, like we are still good. Like I said, we're still friends and stuff like that. So we laugh about it now, but at the same time, like I've kind of built my own life here in France, and I've built a lot of friends. I went to Saint Tropez just August there with a group of friends that I've met in Paris, all French, you know, very French. I feel, you know, my training group still call me the foreigner, but I'm getting there.
No.
But, you know, I've
Listen,
kind of
I just want to chuck in there at this point. First and foremost, very proud of, or you know, very proud of you and your character. And you know, I speak to lots of different sports people, and everybody's got those different challenges, and yours is obviously different from the point of view that you're in another country, very young, went through the adversity of, you know, relationship going separate ways. It's a lot to deal with, as well as be alone, and you showed a lot of character, hell of a lot of character. You should give yourself a pat in the back. You know, big respect again to your parents, you know, the support they've given you. Look at that. Your dad coming over on the day, straight back on a flight, your mum coming over and getting you settled in your new apartment. You know, it's brilliant. And now, you know, you're settled over there, you've made friends. You know, you seem, you know, when I got introduced to you, who I just want to give a shout out to Adam Ash, who kindly put me in touch with your good self, and he was full of positivity about, you know, he said, I think she'll be really good in your podcast. You know, she's a great athlete, and she's, you know, she's got a really good personality, and you're back. You know, we've still got a little bit more to cover, but you've been so honest. You know, you've learned a lot through the way, and I think that's very, very important. You know, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to do things along the way. I think to any young sports people out there, I hope that gets to listen to this, I think, boy or girl, there's so much to learn from it. So you're in France, you've settled down, there's a big dream now. You've got your heads in a good space. You know, you've got your apartment, you've got your pals, you've got your social life, you've got your training schedule. You talk about that quite a lot. You've got your schedule. Commonwealth Games, the big dream. Is it achievable?
Yeah, like, see, the thing for me is when I was really young, the Commonwealth Games, I remember being 13 or 14 at the time, and my coach saying at training, who wants to be in Australia at the 2018 Commonwealth Games? And immediately I had my hand up, like any sound of competition, I was like, me, like, I want to be there, you know. And of course, when 2018, you know, there was a lot happening, and for whatever reason, I was nowhere near going there because my injury and operation and all that. But to be honest, like the Commonwealth Games for me has always been like if I can get to a Commonwealth Games and compete for Scotland, you know, it kind of puts me on the map, you know, the senior kind of international competition. And because it's Scotland, it's not as big as saying, oh, I want to be at the World Championships or I want to be at the Olympics. Like, of course, every athlete who's competing like wants to get to those high levels, but the Commonwealth Games for me has always been really attractive in the sense that it would be a really nice starting point, like, you know, starting for Scotland and getting on a big stage like that. And obviously with the Commonwealth Games coming up in 2022, like me moving out to France, I was thinking, right, that's 4 years away. You know, it was just kind of at the start of a new cycle. The Commonwealth Games in 2018 had just finished. And I was like, this is the beginning of a new cycle. And I really want to get to the one in Birmingham. It's everybody thinks like as an athlete you want to travel and be far away, and furthest away possible is amazing. But see, for me, like to have essentially a home games, because Birmingham's just what 6 hours or so away from Scotland, you know. So or maybe more. I'm not great with the
No,
old
less, 4.5, 5 hours.
I have no
Not
idea.
far, not far at all.
But yeah, like friends and family would be able to come along, you know.
Easy,
And like
easy.
for me, I just feel like, and my coach as well, this is a really nice thing. Like France aren't obviously in the Commonwealth Games, and my coach has been to World Championships, he's been to European Championships, he's been to Olympics, but he's never had the chance to go to a Commonwealth Games. And I remember saying to him when I first joined him, like, I'm going to get you a kilt, and we will be at at the Commonwealth Games, and you will wear a kilt. And he was laughing. He was like, "Oh, if you get there, I'll wear a kilt," like kind of thing, you know.
Does he know the tradition? Does he know the tradition of a kilt?
Well, he brought that up with me. He's like, you know, I've heard that, and I'm like, right, okay, whatever. You do you. I don't need to be involved in that. You just get me there, and then you can do what you want with the kilt. Like that's the thing. But to be honest, I feel like it'll come at the right time. You know, I'll be 25, 26. You know, that for me, my dad, like I said, from when I was tiny, he's like, you have to be patient. Like your time will come, and like I've always been quite underdeveloped in the sense like I'm not as big as the girls I compete with. I'm not as powerful as them. But I've always had a very like slow progression in that, and I'm working so hard, and I'm training in an environment where these are the best girls in France, and like, you know, I'm learning so much every single day. I really truly believe like I can get there, and I know my coach believes in me, and I know my family believe in me, and I just feel like it would start me off in a very good way if I can aim for that. And do you know what, like I said, with sport you cannot predict a thing. Like you just don't know what's going to happen. And I know I've got something inside me that I know I can put together a good score. Like I've not had the best years in the past. Like, you know, the past few years have been really difficult for me for various reasons. You know, like, and I think anyone moving group and having to kind of set themselves up in a different environment is challenging. So like this year I'm fully settled. Although we've moved city, you know, it's the same group. The weather's better, so I'm not complaining. I'm so happy. I'm really in my element, and I've never felt better, and I've never felt more ready to kind of show what I can do. And I'm just crossing my fingers that we can compete next year, because obviously the coronavirus hit this year, which meant although I was healthy and I was settled and I was happy, like we had nothing to do. So, you know, I'm just crossing.
Well, even that, you faced that's adversity as well. You know, you're probably ready now to be full steam ahead, and you're probably now, you know, you're being stalled, but your mind is in a really good place. And
I just feel like, you know, all of this that's happened in the past is kind of set me up to be like, you know what, I've made it through that, and I'm still here. So, you know, I'm just going to enjoy it, and I'm just going to go out next season and just hopefully put together the score that I know I can put together. And I know that my coach, he knows, you know, like he's like, I always ask him, do you think I can get there? Do you think I can score that? And he's like,
we all want a little bit. I mean, that's what your coach is there for as well. Do you know, and listen, I don't think he's got any doubt in you, because he would have taken you on. Look at all he's invested into you, but he had done all that if he didn't believe in you.
I know, and you know, he says to me, do you think I'd be wasting my time? He calls me roast beef. I'm like, first of all, it's roast beef. It's not rose. But he calls me roast beef. He's like, do you think I'd be spending so much time on you, roast beef, with English and everything and all your shenanigans? Because I do have some stories. But he's like, all your shenanigans for me to not think that you're going to get anywhere. And I'm like, okay, fine. I believe you, but I still ask him just to wind him up. I'm like,
listen, it's good to get, you know, it's important to have the backing of your coach, and you obviously have both got a good, healthy relationship. Listen, I'll be rooting for you from afar. I'll be following closely. All my advice would be is control the controllables. Don't let, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Work the hardest you can. At least you'll know when that time comes. Look, I'm very confident you'll be competing. But if you don't, you know you've given it absolutely everything. But don't even think about that. Think about you're going to be there.
You know, the thing is, I say to everyone, because they're like, oh, you're not a bit worried, like, about not being able to do that, about not being able to do that. And I'm like, look, do you know the thing is, I'm living in a different country. I'm experiencing a different culture. I'm learning to actually live by myself, be able to be independent, be able to, I don't know, fix a leak on a washing machine, which, by the way, these are the things I'm having
Even
to
I
learn.
couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. No chance.
Or like, you know, when something happens, I can't just phone my dad and say, can you come round and fix that? Or what do I do for that? Or how do I set up my French? But, you know, I'm having to go for appointments to the bank with French people and try and set up a full account. And I'm learning how to be an adult kind of even more difficult, like in another country. And I said, you know, it's the same answer to everyone. It's like, you know, if I don't achieve what I'm setting out to achieve on the track, I'm still going to have achieved so much.
Your character building has been is these last 3, 4. I mean, your whole journey's been character building, but these last 2, 3 years
I
are
feel like
unbelievable.
I
How much
almost feel
you've
like a
overcome.
yeah, like I almost feel like a different person in the sense, like, obviously the same, I'm still the same person, like personality wise, but I'm just so much more aware of what life is about, like, and what I actually have to do each day in order to be at my best on the track. And I have to be organized. I have to not get stressed when little things, you know, I'm so much more aware of what matters and what doesn't matter. I used to get so stressed about pointless stuff because I'd never experienced the things that are actually stressful.
Yeah.
I used to get stressed over nothing or like panic over nothing, and now I'm just like, oh, the washing machine's leaking all over my floor. That's fine. I'll just fix that. Or like, you know what I mean? It's just like little things like that. I'm so much more in tune with, you know, okay, I can actually do this, and I don't stress. I sleep great at night. I'm like, I'm a good person. I'm doing the best I can. I go to sleep at night, you know, without really a stress about stuff, and I'm just like, I'm so happy, and that's the main thing. And I think it's so obvious to people that I'm really loving life out here, you know, and people always say to me, oh my God, you know, it looks amazing. You look like you're just loving life and living life. And I'm like, yeah, but I worked a lot to get here, you
Yeah.
know, and I went through a lot to get here, and I've really had to pick myself up many times, and my parents have had to do a lot of emotional support. And, you know, it's not just as easy as moving country, or it's not just as easy as, like, you know, just living in the sun every day. And I know that's what it looks like on my Instagram, but there is a lot behind the scenes that I guess people don't really see. And like, I'm quite proud of myself for where I am just now, you know, and I know I've got so much more to give, and I know I've got so much more to come, but sometimes I do just take a step back and I'm like, okay, I'm doing all right, you know.
Listen, I'm excited. I'm excited for when people get the chance to watch this, because there's been that you've been really real. That's what's important to me. You've really been real, and there's a real journey there. I'm inspired by listening to you. I've got a daughter who's 11 months old, and I'll probably, as she gets older, show, look, your dad had an interview once with a professional athlete, and show her something like this, because I would like to think it will inspire her. My wife is a musician, singer, songwriter, musician. We're very big on wanting to show her that anything is achievable, and some that this advert of your journey, I think will inspire so many people, because it's not all been hunky dory, as we say in Scotland. It's
No.
been, like we said, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. You were going to say something, on you go.
No, I was just going to say, like, a lot of people when they meet me think, oh God, you're really different to what I thought you were going to be like, because that's the thing, people think they know just from like what they see on social media, and everybody can make everything look easy on social media, you know. And like, I think that's the thing, like, obviously you're not going to put out, I was very I didn't speak a lot about what was happening last year, because mainly I was trying to deal with it myself and just trying to figure out my own way of coping, and figure out what I was actually doing. But at the same time, like, being able to talk about it a bit today and just be able to say, like, everybody's going through something, and I think that's one of the main things, like, to remember about everything. And that's why I'm always like open and honest with people, or just kind to people, or just like, because I'm thinking everybody has something that they're hiding. Like last year,
You never know. You never know what's going on.
I met a lot of people last summer, and you know, I'm very like cheery and chirpy on the outside, and I put on a strong shell, if that makes sense. But I was going through it last year, and only the people closest to me know how much it affected me, and how much I had to put on a brave face. But I can look back at that and think, like, I have come such a long way, and I think it's just about, you know, knowing that everybody has something, and you're not, you know, you're not alone in that sense. Like, but you can just, it's all about like pushing through it and just believing in yourself and believing what, not necessarily believing in yourself, because when you're going through stuff, you do question yourself and you start to doubt, but it's like believing the people around about you that actually support you and actually can see from the outside with when they're not in it. Like, you know, I had so many people saying to me like, come on, you've got this, like you can do it, like you just keep pushing. Like, and even the girls I compete with, you know, a couple of them knew what I was going through last year, because there were a couple moments in the competition where I was just a bit like,
You had a wee wobble, yeah. It could happen. A wee slight wobble.
yeah, just that was all it was, like just a wee slight wobble, and I was just thinking like, okay, because I remember going to my first French outdoor championship in no heighting in the high jump, and thinking like, and this was like right in the thick of everything happening. I'm just thinking like, could this be any friggin' worse? Like, you know, I'm trying my best, and then I don't even clear a bar. I don't even clear a bar. So I'm thinking like, and I just got a bit upset, and there was actually a couple English girls over at the French Championship, and we had a proper deep chat after day one, and I was just thinking like, I'm just going to tell them like, I'm just here to try and get by, like I just want to be here, I want to be competing, but X, Y, and Z. And they're like, do you know what, like you can, like they were so supportive, and these are my competitors, you know. And I never spoke.
Humanity again.
Exactly, and it's like, that's why
I love that story about the old woman. I'm still, that old lady touched my heart.
So embarrassing though. I was just like, oh my god, she must think this girl's a loony, I better give her a hug. But that's the thing, like that's why I'm so open to listening to people. You know, I always say to people like, you can talk to me if you want, like, and I'm here to talk to you. Like, that's the thing, like I think I never really spoke a lot to many people about my situation, because I just thought like, you know, when it's with somebody that's in the public eye, you just have to be very careful with what you say, and just in case, you just don't know. And I would hate for somebody to be painted in a bad light from one little comment that I've said that's been blown into a big, you know. And I would never ever say anything badly. That, like I said, it wasn't a bad situation. But
you haven't said one thing badly, and you've said it in a, you know,
there isn't anything bad to say. But I just think I was very cautious about who I told what to, and you know.
So you should be, because you can't.
Yeah, same with everything. But now, like, to kind of tell a story, I guess, in a way, and just be like, yeah, this happened, but you know, I'm all good, and it kind of goes for anything. It doesn't have to be in sport. There's always going to be times where you're just a bit like, oh Jesus, like just breathe, you know. And it's going to happen to me again. I know it will, but at least I'll be more equipped to deal with it, and I'll be okay. I've gone through this before. I know how to do that, and I know one step at a time. And I'd never experienced something like that. I'd never experienced, and you know, people always say time's the greatest healer. Like, you'll be fine and you'll feel better. And at the time, you're just thinking, there is no chance I'm going to feel better. Like, what is that? And you just start like, you know, it's normal. But now that I've gone through that, anything that I'm kind of faced with, I'm like, right, okay, I know that I'll be able to pick myself up. I'll know I'll be able to go forward, and I can do it in a way that reflects me well, because I would never ever be somebody that's like, oh, you know, this happened and why would you do that, and blah, 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 blah. You know, it's not me, and I would never do that. So yeah, I think it's like everything's happened for a reason, and it's happened for the best, because I feel so secure and I feel so happy, and I just feel like, yeah, it was just supposed to be like that. This was supposed to be my journey, and I'm just taking it as it comes.
It's part of your journey. And you were talking earlier about, you know, when you one day have children and stuff like that, these are going to be the experiences that you're going to be able to guide them, because you're going to have faced stuff that you can give that. And that's why your parents, they will have faced their challenges in their life as well, and that's why they're able to give you that support. It's all part of the journey. And this has been really, really fascinating. Something I just want to touch on as we come towards the end, as I mentioned at the start, ambassador for two brands in particular. One that I'm quite familiar with and how we got put in touch, and you're rocking the t-shirt, obviously. Pure Sport CBD.
The day once.
Talk to me about them. I obviously know Adam Ash, only recently. Great guy, really great guy. But talk to me about their influence on you and the products.
Well, obviously I met Adam through my last relationship. He was Finn's good friend, and like I think they used to live together, so they were really good friends. So I met him in that environment.
Okay.
And obviously he started this brand with like Pure Sport and Grayson, another athlete. I've never met Grayson in person, but I've heard a lot about him, obviously, and I knew he used to play at Glasgow and he's friends with all the guys and stuff like that. And they reached out to me right at the beginning when it was kind of starting up, and they were interested in kind of getting me on board and seeing if I liked the products and all that kind of stuff. But right in the beginning, they didn't have the batch testing like logo. They were in works with that because obviously they're both sports guys, so they know how important it is to make sure everything's tested and make sure everything's like up to scratch with requirements and all that kind of stuff. And they were so supportive right from the start. They said, look, we'll wait and we'll hold off until we have the certificates, and then once we've got all that sorted, then you can start to see how it works for you. And I was just like, you know, when somebody kind of like thinks outside the box and doesn't just try and push a product onto you and thinking, you know, you'd be really good to help. You know, I know it's not quite ready yet, but just go for it kind of thing. And so I really appreciated it from the start that they were willing to kind of hold off a wee bit until everything was in place. And obviously, like, Adam's a great guy. Like I said, I knew him from before, and just from chatting to Grayson as well, and his wife too is involved. And you know, it's just like when there's people around you that are like great people and have the same kind of like ambitions and drive as you, like that's what kind of drew me into it in the first place. And they're so supportive, you know, even if it's just a message being like, oh, you know, you're smashing this, or that's great, or how can we help you with that, or you know, sending out products and getting me on the ambassador thing. You know, like I was one of the first ambassadors that they kind of set up on with a discount code and everything like that. And they're just like such positive people. And you know, I've built a really good relationship with the Pure Sport team, and I just feel like I'm really excited for what's to come for them, because when I started with them, they weren't near 10k on Instagram and stuff, and I think in a year they've gone up to even more. Like they're way past 10,000 now. I think they're past 15,000. You know, it's just building and building, and I think it's something that more and more people are interested in. And when I started with Pure Sport, you know, obviously I got some comments being like, should you be promoting that because it's like weed? I'm like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just like people didn't know about it. People hadn't done the research. People didn't understand. And actually, it has been a lifesaver for me, because for years, I had a ongoing injury with nobody could figure out what it was. Even the top doctors at INSEP couldn't find what was wrong with me. They thought it was hamstring related. They thought it was back related. I had a pain right underneath my bum cheek. Like that's all I can describe it with. And I couldn't sprint properly, or I just kept having problems. I would go through periods of training of it being fine, and then it not being fine, and then it being fine. And it was just continuous, and we couldn't figure out what it was. But I went to a specialist because I met an athlete at INSEP who did 800 meter running. He was like, he won the world championships and stuff, so he was really experienced, and he had the exact same problem as me. And he saw a specialist who kind of specialised in that area, and it turns out that I had like just a lot of inflammation around my nerves and around my tendon up at the very insertion of my hamstring. But it wasn't a tear, it was just a lot of inflammation. And obviously the Pure Sport CBD oil, like one of the main drivers is inflammation, like anti-inflammatory properties in it. So when they reached out to me and said like, look, do you want to try this? There's a lot of research going on that it improves kind of inflammation and stuff. I'm thinking, well, this is perfect, because I have really bad inflammation in my muscles and tendons and everything. And I started taking the oil January last year. So I've been using it pretty much every day religiously since January last year. And when I say I've not had an issue with that type of injury, and probably, well, since last February, since I started taking the products, I have not had any issue with inflammation up in that area for a year now. And all I can put down to it is the fact I started using that oil. And this is the thing, I get messages all the time from people saying like, oh, do you feel a difference though? And I'm like, it's not like you wake up and you're just like, God, I feel like a new woman.
It's over time. It's over time that you.
Over time, it's the consistency of it. It's the same with training, or it's the same with anything. You know, like if you use something consistently and you actually put it into your routine, that's when you start to reap the benefits. And there was a few times, like if I wasn't training, you know, if I had a break from training, I would maybe stop taking the oil because, you know, your routine's different and stuff. That's when I started to notice the difference, because I'm just thinking like, I feel like not as. I don't know, it's so hard to explain. I actually physically can't explain it to people. Like, it's not until you start using it that you realise that it's helping you. Do you know what I mean? And I've not looked back, and obviously they've expanded and they've brought out a moisturiser, they've brought out a muscle balm. So like if you have any pains or niggles or anything, you know, you can use the muscle balm. And I did a Q&A type thing on my stories during the first lockdown, and I got so much interest from people, you know, asking, oh well, what does that do? And there's more and more athletes, actually girls in my event, that have started to use it, and I've had people ask me about it, and there's so much kind of going on with them, and they're just growing. And Adam's now moving out to LA, I think, in January.
Yeah, big exciting time for him.
So it's going stateside. So
yeah, yeah, no, they're I mean, great to hear your story, because I've also it just shows you how small the world is. I done a podcast with Rory Jackson, and Rory put me in touch with Adam and said he'd be great in your podcast, and then I got Adam on the podcast, and we hit it off, got on really well, and then from there he's been so supportive to me and what I'm doing with the podcast. And then, you know, I've tried the products as well. The benefits I've seen is, you know, I was experiencing, like, I've struggled sleeping for a while, and had you know, faced anxiety in the last couple of years as well, and I've found it's had a really positive effect. Great to hear the positive effect it's had on you. So definitely big shout out to those guys. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a fantastic job. The other one is My Protein.
Yeah.
I don't know as much about My Protein, so tell me about that. Tell me about your experience with them.
That's fairly new, to be honest. Like, they kind of reached out to me a couple months ago and just said, like, you know, would you be interested in our ambassador program? Like, you know, obviously we see that you do sport and you're using, you know, we don't know if you're using products or whatever. And, you know, like, I had actually been using My Protein before, because some of the supplements that I use were from them, because they do the Informed Sport, they have the batch testing on there. So I was using their products before, and then obviously to get this opportunity to kind of be an ambassador with them.
Well, they're huge.
Like,
they're huge.
Yeah, I was like, well, of course. I was like, that's something I'd definitely be interested in. And like, so how it works is they give you like a discount code, and they send you out some stuff, and you just start to promote it on your Instagram. And I've never said, like, you know, I'm an influencer. It's not, I wouldn't see myself as that. But I think with my sport, and like, people are kind of getting a bit of interest in what I'm up to and stuff like that, you know, when I promoted the My Protein stuff, the woman that kind of deals with our team as such, because you get put into teams, she sent me a message, and before I'd even been on the team for a week, I posted my photo, I think, on a Sunday, and she told me on the Friday, I think, she was like, you've already hit tier 3. So there's like different tiers in the system, like people are already buying stuff, like using your code, you've already hit tier 3. And I was just thinking, oh, I don't know if it's maybe because, like, I don't really know, to be honest, but people just seem to really be interested. And I think, like, the main thing is I never want to make it unnatural, and I would never promote something that unless I genuinely would buy it or I genuinely would use it. And you know, I think there's some part of Instagram where it's like that's just people's job, you know, that's what they do, they promote things, and like they are the influencers of Instagram because that's their job. But I'm just doing my sport, I'm just showing what I'm kind of using day to day. And I think people are interested in that, and like, you know, people are kind of, fitness is kind of getting into, you know, a lot of people are getting into fitness now. And you know, the good thing with My Protein is it's very likable. I love the training kit and stuff like they're sending me, and obviously I use the product, so you know, I think they're growing as well. And it's nice that they've got me involved when I'm actually doing sport. You know, I'm actually doing a sport, and I can show, you know, and I like to obviously look nice at training with the kit and stuff, so I'm like, well,
it's great. And I think because you do sport at a high level, you know, you're obviously very marketable for them, but I think it's good that you're able to educate people. And you've said it there, but I mean, you're not an influencer from the point of view that that's what you're influencing through your craft. You know, this helps you, and you find their products have helped you a lot as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely, because I use them every single day, and that's the thing. I would never promote something that I don't use. And actually, with the Pure Sport guys, you know, I said to them, like, I'll use it for a month or so before I make comment on it. Because it's like, you know, I'm not going to just get something and start saying, by the way, this is amazing, you need to go and buy that. Like, I'm going to use it, try it out for myself. And the thing with My Protein is I'd been using them before anyway. So I knew that they were a good brand, and I knew that, like, I was more than happy to promote because it's something that I've been using for a long time. And I think, like, you know, with the whole influence and stuff, like it's quite funny because obviously you get, well, my brothers or like your friends being like, oh, are you an influencer now? And my answer every time somebody asks me that, my answer is, do you feel influenced? Because if you feel influenced, then call me an influencer. But you know, it's just all, it's a bit of fun for me. It's just like, you know, and it's just, I'm loving that now. I'm like starting to do a wee bit of that, like more brands are reaching out to me and saying, oh, would you be interested in doing that, or would you be interested in doing that? And like, it's just, for me, it's just a bit of fun, you know. I'm like, I love posting photos of what I'm doing. I love, you know, just putting a wee bit out there, and like, you know, because I honestly, I'm loving life, and I just love kind of showing what I'm up to and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping once the corona situation kind of dies down a wee bit, I'll be able to get over to London, see the Pure Sport guys, and get a bit more involved with some of the events that they put on. And also with My Protein, they're based in Manchester, so I'm hoping to maybe get over there and kind of see like how it all works from like the warehouse perspective and all that kind of stuff. I'm really hoping that next year I can kind of get a bit more involved in what I'm doing and kind of understand as well, because it really does interest me, and I can't wait to get involved in the events that the Pure Sport guys put on. I'm like, God, that is a bit of me, you know, everybody like fighting it out and like a competitive environment, even though I'm not a CrossFitter, like, you know, might have got a bench PB today, but I'm definitely not into CrossFit. But I love environments like that where everyone's just cheering each other on. It's like proper hype. And I said to Grayson, I was like, I cannot wait to get involved in that. And he was like, yeah, we'll have to have you over one time to do some stuff. And I just can't wait to be more like involved and be able to actually go over and see, right, well, how do you do that and how does that work? And because I'm really interested, and I like when people ask me stuff about it, you know, because I'm always open to answering. I'm always like, if you have any questions, just hit me up, because I love talking about stuff that I'm passionate about. So no, it's good. Everything's going in the right direction.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Really, really cool. And big shout out to Pure Sport CBD and to My Protein. You know, keep up the good work. You're obviously supporting a lot of athletes, and your products are helping a lot of people from all different walks of life. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right, my last question. Advice for a 16-year-old Emma Canning.
Advice for a 16-year-old Emma Canning: listen to your mum and dad more. No, listen, appreciate what my mum and dad are doing more. Stop fighting with them. No, but I think just, if I was to look back and speak to myself, it would just be, have confidence in yourself. Don't worry about the people that are giving you hassle at school right now, because in a few years' time, you're not going to remember what they're doing. Yep. It's not going to make a difference. Just believe in yourself. Know that you're strong enough to face what's coming, I guess, because as a 16-year-old, I would have never guessed my life would have been like this. So I would have said, just be strong enough to face what's coming. Know you're strong enough to face what's coming. And enjoy what you're doing, and always believe that what you feel inside is what's right, you know. So, and I think that goes for anything. Like, just trust your gut instinct and believe in yourself, and be open to doors that open to you. And yeah, just take everything in your stride and enjoy the process, because I guess you only get one chance. And at least I can look back on my 20s and think, you know what, I gave life a right good go at that time. So I couldn't be happier with how things are turning out, and I couldn't be more excited about what's coming in the future. And I think regardless of what happens, you know, I've set myself up pretty well to be able to cope with a lot of stuff, and, you know, just keep listening to people who are open to giving you advice, and take everything on board. So I guess that's what I would say.
Listen, thank you very, very much.
No, thank you for having me.
You really have. I mean, Adam talked you up and said, listen, you know, Emma will be good in your podcast, but you have exceeded the expectations. I think you've been really, really honest. I think you've spoken about mistakes, challenges. It's had literally everything in it. And now, you know, we're getting to the stage now where you're probably in your peak. And you've been through all that adversity, all the ups and downs. And I'm certainly going to be following you closely now, and I've got all my fingers crossed that we'll be watching you in the Commonwealth Games. I look forward to, you know, continuing this, you know, friendship. Now I feel like I've only been it's amazing the power of just connecting with different people. And I really look forward to getting this out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.